Hey, what is up guys, you got Gypsy and I'm back here today with some Gen 8 Draft League content for the channel. So we're here at last with some draft, and in today's video I'll be showing you guys my DPL Season 3 games as well as some other random tour games as well thrown into the mix. So it's probably going to be a long video, so get some food, sit back, get a drink and just kick back and enjoy. So yeah, this season for Draft Premier League, for those of you guys who may not be aware of what it is, it's pretty much like the draft equivalent of SPL. So you join as either a player or a captain, and you're either auctioned into a team by the captains, or you sign up as a captain and choose a team of players based on a budget that you're set. In the previous two seasons I've signed up as a player, but this time around I wanted to sign up as a captain. I ended up captaining with my really good friend Matty Brolick, beast of a player and long-time mate. And yeah, the past two seasons my price has just been astronomical, and that's heavily impacted the rest of my team when I get drafted to a team. So even though we last season we made it all the way to finals, and we should have won finals if we didn't get lucked, I figured this season it would be interesting to sign up as a cap and not have that massive budget blown out of my team, see what we could do with a proper budget. So it was a ton of fun this season. I teamed, like I said, with Matty. We ended up picking Aki and Zazu, so we had all the boys on there, as well as a whole bunch of really great players. Just all the boys on the team were really solid. We got some great mid-season pickups too, so it was a ton of fun, and we had a really solid season. I want to say we had a really strong season, especially after mids. We had a really dominant sort of rush towards playoffs. But then in the final week, it was a must-win week for us, and a few of our guys just couldn't clutch up when they needed to, and unfortunately we were knocked out just shy of playoffs, which was kind of a surprise to us as a team because we were all gearing up for a really dominant playoff push for finals. But yeah, not something we expected for sure, but it is what it is. But yeah, so today I'll be covering the games that I had, and there were some good ones, so I hope you guys do enjoy it. First up, we have my week 2 game against Prime Dorkman, which was also known as Ice Demon Grey. Good guy. He actually plays in the UDL, which I won last season, and I played him there I think once or twice, so definitely a strong player. I'm familiar with how he plays. I know he's a skillful player, and he's playing in DPL, so that says a lot for the most part. But basically the way it worked is Matty played one week, I played the next. We sort of rotated it in and out, so only one captain can play a week until playoffs, so we were rotating it through. So I was starting in week 2, providing massive team support through the other weeks that I wasn't playing. So I'm here in week 2 up against Ice, and he's got a pretty solid team that he's using this week. On the bench he also had Mudsdale, as well as what was his other mon? It was Mudsdale as well as Grimsnarl. So that definitely impacted my team choice. Now unfortunately this is pre-home Gala deck, so this is very limited in terms of what mons you're able to draft, what moves you're able to use. So stuff like knockoff doesn't exist for a lot of mons. Pursuit's obviously not in this gen. Hidden powers are gone. But there is a lot of limitations on the move pools that mons have access to, just because this was the rule set before the Pokemon Home thing came out. So it is a very limited meta. It's quite stale by the end of DPL. I think a lot of people were feeling that, but we are here now. So this is the rule set we're playing in, and like I said, his team, he had a ton of threats. Grimsnarl is centralizing to a degree because I do have Reuni, which is really nice versus the rest of his team, but Grimsnarl does make Carmine variants a bit harder to pull off with access to stuff like Taunt and Darkest Lariat, which can bypass Acid Armor boosts, stuff like that. He's got Silvally, and Silvally is a mon in Gen 8 that has received pretty major buffs in the form of multi-attack, getting a nice attack boost. It means defensive variants of Silvally can really hold their own offensively, and SD variants can break through fatter teams very easily because Silvally has naturally really solid bulk. So I was expecting Electric Silvally to come to help him check my Corviknight, as well as having a means of breaking through my Pex, because Pex can really check a lot of his team if played correctly. My Cinderace is one of my key win cons here, and what's going to be pivotal in winning with Cinder is either luring the Jelly with Band Assurance after Rocks, which doubles in power if it's hit by Rocks in the same turn, or catching him with Toxic early with Pex. And I'm actually running Mental Herb Pex this match to help me lure the Taunt Jelly, which I felt was a pretty obvious bring, like Taunt Jelly is the bring versus Pex and Reuni, so as well as I guess a slower Corv, so it makes sense for sure. And yeah, so my Reuni was more of a mixed defensive set, in terms of checking stuff like Como, checking Silvally to an extent, nasty pot Salazzle, ton of speed F, ton of defense, and I do have regen on this set. I'm not Magic Guard, so I can pivot in and out of attacks and sort of attack as opposed to having to heal up with recover. So a pretty interesting set here. And then I have Banned Adamant Cinderace. So yeah, Flare Blitz is really strong. Pyroball is cock blocked by Como's Bulletproof, so Flare Blitz gives me a strong alternative to that, which can dent it if he's a more offensive variant, which I do expect him to bring. I think Jelly is defensive enough, a Cinderace check, to justify an offensive Como bring, and honestly offensive Como is really solid here. Something like a sub Clangorous Soul Blaze set can put in a ton of work, so that did weigh into my decision to bring a banned Cinder. Mamo, I'm actually Sash Rocks. Sash helps me check a sub SD Silvally, which I did expect to bring. I've got Icicle Spear to help break through a sub if that's what he is, but I did really expect some sort of subset, and with SD, with the Sash, Mamo is able to counter that pretty nicely if I can preserve rocks off the field. And then I've got a Rest Drape. I've got an SD Rest Drapion. Again, it is really useful for stuff like Wisp Jellicent. It's really nice for the Orbeetle, and it does help with bulkier like Dark, Silvally Dark variants if he does choose to bring that. So I've got a few checks to different Silvally sets he could bring, but that being said, I have to play it around well because it is certainly a threat. So that is going to be the team breakdown. We're going to jump into the game and see how it went. So I'm going to lead Cinder as he leads off with his Jelly here, so not an ideal matchup for me turn 1. I'm going to switch out hard into my Pex as he fires off a Wisp here. He's going to Taunt here, fine play, but I do have the Mental Herb, which is going to allow me to get off the early Toxic, which is really nice. That's going to bear fruit later in the game if I can weaken Jelly down for Cinder. Now he's going to go for the double. He's going to go for the second Wisp here as I just double Toxic, expecting him to potentially go out into his Como or his Silvally. But he does go into his Corviknight here as I do fire off another Toxic, and I'm expecting him to switch out here, not wanting to take a Scald, as I do Toxic him once again. Getting his Orbital burnt would have been the most ideal situation for him, so Toxic caught the Como or the Orbital coming in. He's going to throw up a Trick here, and yeah, I can't say I was expecting that, but it was good prep nonetheless, crippling my Corv, which is going to really make his Corv in a better situation in the late game if it's bulk up, so good play there. He's going to go out to Jelly here as I go out into my Cinder, and I click Assurance versus Jellicent because it is going to 2 a KO with the Toxic damage racking up. But he's actually going to go hard out into Salazzle, trying to catch, I guess, me switching out into Pex, for example, as he is a sub variant. He's going to sub here on my Reuni, and right here I do just go for the Psychic on his Endeavor. Because I am regen, it's not the end of the world. I can pivot around this Salazzle and get back to a nice amount of health. He's going to Flamethrower here. It was a tough turn for him for sure, but he does go for the Flamethrower as I do just Scald him here and take out his Salazzle. So that's one threat down, one big threat to my team out of the way. Just his speed tier is a bit annoying for me, as Como is going to come in here. Now I gotta respect the sub Clangorous Soul Blaze set, and because I am Sash, I can bait that. I can bait him to stay in and potentially take him out with Icicle Spear. He's going to sub, as this turn he does just go for the Drain Punch, which is smart, as I am just going to go for the Icicle Spear and get a bit of damage off on his Como, which is going to be really nice for my Cinderace later on. So he can no longer switch into Banded Flare Blitz pretty much, so he's going to reveal to be Silvally Dark, which means my Drapion can potentially set up versus him. I should be able to SD, I've got a ton of bulk, I should be able to SD and click Poison Jab twice, but he's going to SD himself, and then reveal to have T-Wave here as I SD. As I get up my own SD, I'm creeping like an adamant Silvally here. He's going to paralyze me with Thunder Wave and do pitiful damage with multi-attack, but I do get fully parried there, which is pretty unfortunate, as I'm going to fire off the rest, which ensures that I'm out of range of the Oko from multi-attack, and I can outspeed and get poison damage off. But he's gonna parry me again here and go for the multi-attack, and I think I get fully parried again. Yeah, I get fully parried again, so Silvally a lot healthier than it should be at this point. I'm going to have to sack off my pecs just to preserve my Drapion if I want to bring it in later and rest up versus the Jelly. I'm going to go hard out into my Cinderace here and Tuiko this this Jelly if he wants to stay in. He is Rocky Helmet, so yeah, like I said, this is definitely his check to Cinderace, but Band Cinderace is pretty strong, so we're almost in Blaze range, which is really nice. Going to go into Corv here as he goes into his Como and just goes for the Drain Punch. Gets a bit of health back, but I don't have U-Turn unfortunately in the set, or would have gone for it here, but I'm just going to go for Taunt. No, actually I double out into Reuni. That's right, I double out into Reuni because it caught... it allows me to switch out again and get a bit more health if he goes out into Corviknight, and if he stays in, it goes for the I don't know, the Flamethrower or the Fire Punch, the Thunder Punch. Reuni easily tanks. But he's going to hard out here into Silvally Dark, so just go for the Thunder. I do a nice amount to this bulky Silvally, and I can just switch back out into my Drapion, sack it off. But he goes for the Parting Shot and brings back in his Como. Now at this point in the game, I'm still having to respect the potential of sub Belly Drum Salic Drain Punch, which is a real threat to this team and something he definitely could bring as a viable win con. Like he's already shown sub, and sub Belly Drum is a pretty common set on Como. But he's just going to go for the Drain Punch here as I go into my Reuni, which is going to be nice. This is going to give me a nice amount of momentum here. I can just fire off an attack. He's going to go out into his Orbeetle, as I do go for the Thunder, I believe. I go for the Flash Cannon, which would have taken out Silvally, I think, as well as getting damage on the Como. But this one's back in, and I'm just going to go for the Flash Cannon once again. I don't really want to risk the Thunder Miss versus the Orbeetle when what I want to do is keep him low and get a switch out into my Cinderace if I can force him to recover. But he's going to go out into his Corviknight instead and get the Spit F drop, so I'm going to fire for Thunder here as he goes out into his Orbeetle. No, I Flash Cannon. This game was played so long ago, I honestly don't really remember the turns here, but he's going to go back out. I think I was trying to save my Thunders for an endgame versus the Corviknight, if I remember correctly, because my Corv is tricked. I have to keep my Reuni in a position to be able to check that in the late game if I need it. So he's going to go for the Bug Buzz, and it does 44, so it doesn't do too much. And we are ticking this thing down with Toxic. I'm going to recover up here, and then I think I switch out the following turn, or I might recover up once more as he goes hard into Silvally Dark. Yeah, he does make that play, as I just recover up once more. And now I'm forced to switch out because this mon is strong with multi-attack, and he is just going to fire for T-Wave actually and catch my Corv. I couldn't let Reuni get parried because a parried Reuni versus his own Corviknight is just asking for trouble. You've got to go for Thunders versus that mon, even on Roosts, to go for the parry chance, which puts the rest of your team in a better position. So if my Reuni gets parried, I'm in a much worse position versus that Corviknight. I'm going to go into my... he's going to go Parting Shot out into his Orbeetle as I just go for the Brave Bird, keep that thing nice and low. And yeah, Cinder's looking pretty good. Cinder's looking pretty good at this point. If I can keep the Como from retaining too much HP with Drain Punch, I should just be able to win with Flare Blitz, or if I can remove the Como, then just Pyro Ball wins. But I'm going to go into Reuni here as he does just go for the recovery again. I want to have my Reuni in versus the Como. I don't want to let it sub up for free, and I don't want to have to risk paras with Corv, as I do just take out his Orbeetle here with the Toxic Residual. It's a pretty long game, but he's going to go out to his Silvally now, and I think he Parting Shots once again. Yeah, he Parting Shots out into his Corviknight here actually, and I think he's going to attempt to bulk up. Yeah, he bulks up here, and I taunt because I need him to. I need him to attack. I need him to be forced into a situation where he can't continuously bulk up. So I'm going to sack off my Drapion, and that damage is going to keep him low enough to where he's threatened out by banned Cinderace. So I'm going to go for the Flare Blitz here, which should put me in range of Blaze, which it does. So I'm now in range of Blaze. Now, it's an interesting turn. Me staying in with Cinder here is interesting because Cinder's my best way of just Okoing, like clean Okoing Corv without having to rely on any sort of Thunder shenanigans from Reuni. I've shown many times that my Reuni is my pivot into his Como. If anything, that was the time that he sort of had to go for game and go for the belly drum with Como. if he belly drums and gets up to +6 and has some sort of coverage to be able to kill my Reuni and pops his Salic, I'm in a tougher spot. Granted, I do have my Ice Shard thing in the back. He could potentially Drain Punch crit my Reuni, which would put him out of range of Ice Shard. I had some sort of reasoning for why I decided to stay in here. I also felt that he wouldn't attack my Cinderace. If I go Reuni and he clicks Drain versus that, like, I just fire for Thunder and his Corv is done, or I just go hard into my Corv and click Taunt. His Corv is forced to attack, and I just bring in Cinder and click Flare Blitz twice. So I was pretty confident that he'd stay in there and attempt to set up, whether it was sub or whether it was belly drum. So I do just stay in and go for the Flare Blitz, and because I am adamant banned in Blitz range, in Blaze range, I'm going to do a ton of damage, as he does attempt to belly drum there. So I get the play right. His Como is going to drop, and then his Corviknight is going to drop here. So that was a pretty fun way to start off DPL. Definitely a solid game, well played by Ice. And we're going to move on here into my week 4 game in just a sec. Alright, so we're back with my week 4 game, and this time I'm in Oras and I'm facing TC. I've known this guy for a while, actually, not too well, but I used to play in a league with him back in Gen 6, so I'm familiar with him. He is a strong RS player, so this should be a good one. Pretty fun offensive matchup by the looks of it. He also had Doublade on the bench, as well as, what did he not bring? He didn't bring his Mega Manectric as well, which was a threat that he could have brought for sure. Certainly places a lot of offensive pressure on my team, but he opted to bring Torterra in place of it. The rest of the mons I felt were likely to come. Yeah, definitely a threatening team. Torterra is very slept on, I think, in draft, and it poses a lot of threats to this team in particular. If it's an offensive rock polish set, then I need to really watch out and play accordingly. I do have a Scuffed Metagross, which can outspeed. It's EV to outspeed, I think, like Adamant +2 Torterra, or I think it might even be Jolly. I think I'm that fast, but either way I can outspeed it and hit it with an Ice Punch. I can also trick it if I need to. Trick's also really useful for the Scum, as well as always ensuring that I outspeed even Jolly Azumarill with this set, and I can smack it with the Meteor Mash or the Thunder Punch, whichever one I had. I've got Double Dance Zam here, Charge Beam. No, actually I'm Recover, Barrier, Charge Beam, and Psychic or something like that. Yeah, it can really honestly just win. Once I get a Barrier up, if I can lure in the Skuntank and Barrier up, I can Charge Beam up against it, and barring crits, I should be able to come out on top there. So then I have a Colbur Jellicent with Sludge Bomb for the Azumarill, Scald, Wisp, and Recover, I think. Wisp just really nice to spread around his team. He doesn't have a good switch into it, apart from Ape, who is obviously going to get bot by Scald. So yeah, Jelly is a really solid play here. I'm sub-toxic, Taunt, EQ, Fast Gliscor. This is an attempt to catch Kyurem before it can sub versus me. I can also Taunt Scum, force him to attack, essentially PP stall him, keeping my sub up. None of his team appreciates the combination of Toxic or EQ apart from Scum, which gets taunted. I'm Scuff killed. Scuff Modest killed has a nice end game here. If I can weaken down the Azu, then Scuff kill can go in. And then my T-Tar is just a bulky set aimed at getting up rocks, luring Scum with Fire Blast, and checking his Mega Manectric. So that's going to be the team. We're going to jump into the game and see how it went. So I'm going to lead, what do I lead? I lead Gliscor as he leads Scum. Turn 1, I'm just going to taunt as he attempts to get up his spikes, which he does because he's actually fast and Mental Herb. So that's interesting. I am creeping max speed Scum with this set, but because he's Mental Herb, he gets the hazard up anyway. So this turn I'm going to sub, expecting him to go hard out into his Kyurem, wanting to take advantage of the potential taunt incoming from me. And that's nice, we get him there. So I'm going to sub up and throw off a Toxic before he can do any subbing of his own or anything like that. He's going to go for Ice Beam. No, I'm just going to sub up once again. He can potentially stay in Ice Beam again or make an over prediction, expecting me to go Tar or Metagross there. So I'm going to sub up, and instead of just continuously subbing, which I definitely could, I'm going to sub once more, and then I'm going to go hard out into my T-Tar. Once he reveals to be lefties, I'm going to go hard Tar, because this is one of the better chances that I'm going to get my Stealth Rocks up, which are pretty essential for my Zam winning this endgame, as well as my Keldeo. Ice Beam's going to bounce off, and I'm going to heal most of it back in lefties, so he's going to be forced out into his Scum here, as I do just go for the rocks, get my rocks up, And now I'm going to go hard out back into my Gliscor just so I can taunt his Scum once again. I don't want him getting up all 4 layers of hazards if I can help it. So he's going to go for the Brave Bird. Had I stayed in, obviously I could have clicked Fire Blast, but if I miss too many of those, then Scum gets all his layers up anyway. So I'd rather limit him to only a couple versus all 4. As he's just going to Brave Bird here, and he's actually going to stay in versus Gliscor and just get off damage. As I'm just going to fire for Fire Blast here, and I think no, I land this one. So Scum gets taken down nice and low, and he's going to get his second spike up here, as I do miss here. So unfortunately, he's going to get all 3 layers of spikes up, and I'm going to finally take out a Scum there. So that's tough, but we should be able to overcome that. So he's going to go hard out into his Ape here. I'm going to go into my, I'm going to go for Protect here, just to scout if he is Choice Lock. Choice Lock Ape is a pretty viable set because I am Mega Zam on this team. Stuff like Mega Zam really does sometimes necessitate a Scarfer versus a team like mine, and because he doesn't really have any other viable scarfing option, it's fair to assume that he could be Scarfed Ape if he doesn't view Skuntank as a suitable enough check for Zam. So yeah, we are going to scout him here, and I'm going to go hard out into my Gliscor. I do choose to go into Gliscor as opposed to going to Jelly, because Jelly is even more important now in this endgame with Azu still alive and well. Gliscor can potentially check Infernate, but Jelly can check both. So I'm going to go into my Gliscor as he goes to the close combat, and right here I very much contemplated going hard out into my Keld on the potential HBIs, assuming that he was Belt, but I really did weigh up the options, and I didn't really think that the mixed spring would come. It was in the back of my mind, but I felt like, no, at this point I can chance Gliscor. If Gliscor goes down, it's not the end of the world. And if he does happen to be Scarfed, which is a fair bring versus me, then I get EQ damage, or I get a Toxic off versus anything that wants to come in. So he's going to reveal Hidden Power Ice here and take out my Gliscor, so that's a nice lure on Ape. Pretty big fan of those kind of sets, as this is going to give me Zam. That was another reason why I was kind of okay with losing my Gliscor there, because it gave me Zam to click Barrier, which I do click, and he's now going to bring in his Skuntank. So he's not Black Sludge, he's more than likely a Soul Fest, which is confirmed by the damage on that Charge Beam. He's going to get the defense drop here, which sucks, and this is going to force me to Mega Evolve and Barrier once again to get out of range of a second crunch. I'm going to be out of range here. I would have been at a nice amount of health had he not got that drop, but going to start recovering up as he is going to crunch me down. Going to get up to a nice amount as he's going to start going for Poison Jab, and when he shows Poison Jab, my thinking kind of changes. I think, all right, I'd rather weaken this thing down, put him in range, remove him for my Jellicent. I don't want this thing around if I can help it for my Jellicent. Jellicent can be really big in this end game, and if I can remove this, the chances of Zam coming out of this unscathed now that he's shown Poison Jab is a bit lower. I can potentially win this 1v1, and I very well could, but if I can remove or weaken this Skuntank, I'd prefer to do that rather than just putting all my eggs in the basket of Zam. So I'm going to start Charge Beaming as he does go for the Poison Jab there. We're doing a nice chunk, but he is going to get the poison here eventually, as we do get the special attack raise there. He's going to get the poison on this Poison Jab, which is going to put more pressure on me to heal up. And he can now start clicking Crunch, which is going to be doing a bit more damage. So he's going to get the defense drop there again, and this turn I'm just going to recover up, kind of scouting the damage off here, realizing that no, he's doing way too much now, so I do need to just attack, take him out here with the Aftermath plus the Charge Beam damage. So Skuntank's going to get down. So unfortunately Zam couldn't accomplish what it was designed to because of those crits, but because of the defense drops, I should say, but we did remove one of the roadblocks to Jelly. So I'm going to go into my Metagross here as he goes into his Azumarill. I'm going to go hard out into Jelly. The reason I go hard out into Jelly is I don't want to lose my my Scarf to a knockoff yet. Scarf Metagross can put in a ton of work in this endgame. Like Scarfed Ice Punch can get rid of the Torterra. Scarfed Medium Mash can get rid of the Gross, and I do have I think I have coverage on this set to hit the Infernape, which isn't Scarfed. So I'm going to go into my Jelly. I am Colbur, so if he does want to go for that, it won't be the end of the world, and I can get off a Wisp versus anything that wants to come in or just recover up. But he's going to go hard out he's actually going to go hard out into his Kieran Black here. So that's an interesting play on his part. I'm going to recover up. I think I recover up here. No, I switch hard into my T-Tar actually, as he is just going to go for the roost here. So he roosts up knowing that it's pretty free versus my Jelly. And I'm going to go to my Tar. I'm going to protect here because I am in range of a Fusion Bolt if he had it, or an Earth Power. But he's just going to roost up here. Now I'm out of range, I can just click Stone Edge. I do expect to stay in with Kyurem as opposed to going out to Torterra, because he's playing his Torterra like it's a Wincon, like it's a Rock Polish set. And if he chances a Fire Blast, then he could potentially be in some trouble there. So we take him out with the Stone Edge, as he is going to go finally out into his Torterra. And I'm just going to stay in here and go for the Fire Blast, as he does go for the Earthquake, revealing that he's faster than my T-Tar at least. I'm going to go into my Metagross here and go for the Ice Punch, dealing a nice chunk of damage. But we do get the freeze there. It's not really going to matter though, because he's going to have Long Berry, and that's going to knock out my Metagross. So that's nice for us. We've put him low. We've put him low in range of Keld, and that's a big threat kind of out of the way here. So I'm going to go for the Scald here with Keld, and he's going to bring in his Azu here. Gonna go for the Scald here again. If I can just weaken this thing down into range of my Jellicent, then I should be sweet. He's gonna go for the Play Off here. We burn him, and he does reveal to have Lumberry, which is nice for him. So that's gonna knock off that burn, and we can just come in here with Jelly and now burn him again with the Wisp. I'm gonna go for the Recover, as I think he goes for the Knock here. No, he chooses to go for Play Off instead of Knock. I don't know if he necessarily had Knock on this set. But his Play Off is doing under half, so this is an interesting exchange with Jelly versus Azu. His Play Off isn't doing over 50%. It could be rolls, but my Jelly is very defensive, and I am creeping his Azu, so I can very well just heal up, continuously heal up, and get out of range of where Play Off is going to 2-KO me over time. But I can also fire off a Wisp at some point, which is going to severely weaken the power of his Play Off. So I do fire off the Wisp, as his Play Off narrowly avoids taking me out. Now here, I know man's got to go into his Infernape. He has to. If I just recover spam up, he auto loses to Jelly. If he stays in and knocks, or if he stays in and Play Offs versus my Jellicent, and I just recover up, then he just auto loses the game. If he goes down to 8 on the turn I recover, then he can go for a Grass Knot or a Thunder Punch or something like that in an attempt to take me out. That's the only way he can win this endgame. So I'm going to call TC on that. I know he can definitely be an aggressive player when he wants to be. He's shown that plenty of times. So I'm going to go for the hard Scald here at 3%, and that is going to catch his Infernape here, take him out, which is huge. And he's going to bring back in his Azumarill here and go for the and just die here to the Sludge Bomb after I just go for the Recover. I think I went for the Recover just in case he was like some kind of, no, it already revealed to be Lum. I don't know why I recovered there instead of sludging. I think I just wanted to show that I was faster, but I'm going to take out his Azu there, and that is going to be the game. So that was a really fun game. We did burn his Azu with our Keld Scald, which meant that his Lumberry was already consumed before Jelly came in. But I'll take that. I mean, he poisoned and double defense dropped my Zam, which would have pretty much won this game by itself with his Skuntank. So it's definitely deserved in my opinion. That is definitely going to be a fun one versus TC. And that was my week 4 game. We're going to pause it here and jump into my week 6. Alright, so we're here with my week 6 game, and this is the third and final game that I'm playing in DPL. So I'm going to be facing off against Specs King, which is a captain of one of the other teams, I'm pretty sure, and definitely a solid player. This is going to be another RS game, and it's a fairly interesting kind of mirror matchup in some regards. We've both got cool fish, both got strong dragons, both got mega guards, so it should be an interesting one. Sizzle has a great matchup here, it really can go in. He does have the cool fish, but I am mixed Sizzle with E-Belt and Hidden Power Psychic with Technician, which actually 2 echoes cool fish, which is interesting and really opens up an endgame for my Scarf Ape. I've got a modest, fast, bulky guard. Kind of does everything here with Encore for his lax if he wants to curse up on me. I've got a really fat, slow Taunt, and the kind of thought process behind this Taunt is that I want to get past any kind of weakness policy, like really defensive weakness policy shenanigans he can play with Laddie. I can fish it poisons with Sludge Bomb and then U-turn out into my Ape, who, if I proc a weakness policy, can just blow it away with punishment. Alternatively, if he's just offensive, I can just get the slow U-turn out into my Scarf Ape, and then kill him with the second U-turn from my Scarf Ape. So this is the Laddie Trap combo here with Taunt and Ape. I've got a Yachi Garchomp. I don't expect him to run Draco here. I think Ice Beam is better versus me overall. With me having Guard though, Taunt and Garchomp get smashed by Ice Beam, and Guard actually gets hit by Ice Beam as opposed to Draco, which does nothing. So I think Ice Beam is definitely not out of the question, but even if he does bring Draco, the Yachi Berry is nice for Weavile and for the potential Ice Punch on Lax and Rhydon. So lastly, I got a defensive helmet, Coolfish with Haze and Pain Split, just to eternally prevent Snorlax from ever doing anything. So that is going to be the team. We're going to jump into the match and see how it went. So I'm going to lead Guard as he leads off with his Rhydon here. He's going to attempt to get up rocks as I just Mega Evolve and get the Hyper Voice off. He's going to get him up early, which is fine, which is all good. He looks to have a stacking approach, much like mine, but he chooses to go out to his Guard here, and he's going to take a big Hyper Voice from mine to KO him here, as he just chooses to get off the T-Wave, and this turn he's gonna Hyper Voice here, weakening down my Guard. But Guard isn't here in a really defensive pivotal role this game. It's here to just get some kills, and that's what it's done. So I'm going to sack it off to this Weavile here. I don't know if he's banned at this point. He could be. That could have just been like adamant Black Glasses damage, but either way, knockoff does take out Guard there, and I'm just going to bring in my Quill and just go for the Spike here, as he's going to go out to his own Coolfish. I'm going to throw up a Spike, and this turn I'm going to go hard into my Chomp. I want to keep my Coolfish nice and healthy if I can for his Weavile and for his Snorlax, and this is a prime opportunity to either get up my rocks or catch one of his switch-ins with Garchomp's Dragon Claw. So I know he's going to want to keep his Quill healthy. Like, keeping Quill healthy is pivotal. It's his only check to, it's the only thing that stops him losing to SD Sizzle outside of Sash counter Weavile here. So it's definitely in his interest to keep his Quillfish nice and healthy, but this turn I am going to go for Dragon Claw here as opposed to going for Rocks. Dragon Claw caught Latias, which is his best switch into EQ or Rocks, and if he goes out to Snorlax, then I just Rocks up the following turn, which I do here. So we're going to do a nice amount, but that was a crit. That was a Dragon Claw crit, and granted I'm not max attack, but it's still a Garchomp, and I am still invested. So he's definitely more on the defensive side that this lacks, as that return is going to do a nice chunk to me. I'm just going to take him out here with the combination of Earthquake into Rough Skin damage. So Snorlax is down, which is nice for Taunt, and he's going to bring in his Laddie here. I'm just going to stay in and go for the Dragon Claw, as he does just go for the Draco, taking me out here with the Draco. So he didn't bring Ice Beam after all, he's Draco, and that is interesting. That means he may not be Calm Mind, which is a set that I expect versus this team. Calm Mind, Shadow Ball, Ice Beam Roost is pretty solid coverage on a defensive set with something like Weakness Pulse. He definitely has a place in a matchup like this, but he chooses to run Draco Defog. So this turn I'm going to stand and go for the Sludge Bomb, I believe. Fishing for a poison versus Laddie, but more importantly, getting him into a range of health where after a U-turn, the following turn from Taunt, if I wanted to stay in or if he wanted to start Calm Minding, he would be in range of Infernape. So he's going to go out to his Quillfish here as I do fire off a Hurricane, as Quill's not going to take that well. I'm going to go for Hurricane here. I'm going to miss as he fires off the T-Wave, and that's all good with me. He's going to Spike up here. I actually go for U-turn here, but I get fully parried. I want to get a Spike up. If he wants to defog and remove my hazards, I want to get them back up, just in case his Coolfish, his Weavile is a Sash set, which, like I said earlier, is the only way he gets past Infernape or Sizzle. So I'm going to U-turn out here as he does go for the second Spike, and I'm just going to bring in my Quill and just throw up a Spike of my own, which does, deter his Weavile from being able to actually counter my own offensive threats. So I'm going to go back out into Taunt here, as he is going to go for the Taunt. It covered him going Laddie and roosting up or something. It also covered him going for Taunt there with his own Coolfish. So he's going to bring in Weavile now, and I'm just going to go back out into my Coolfish, get that Intimidate drop off, and he is going to go for I think he goes for Knock here. Yeah, he goes for Knock, takes out my Coolfish, and I'm just going to be able to revenge him here with Infernape's U-turn, as if he wants to go into Laddie, I can just go back out into my Scizor and click Bullet Punch twice. But I'm going to go back out into Taunt here as he goes into his Laddie, and he's just going to go for the Psyshock. So he's not Calm Mind, he's not Roost, as I can just U-turn out and wrap up this game with Scizor. So that was a pretty fun, clean way to round out DPL. Would have been great if we could have made it to playoffs, but like I said earlier, unfortunately, some of our guys just couldn't clutch up in the last week when we needed to. So you never know, next time around it could be this season. But that is going to be coverage of my DPL games. Hope you guys did enjoy. I'm going to jump to some other tour games. Not as serious as DPL, but still fun nonetheless. Alright guys, so now we're back with some games from a recent tour that I participated in called the Quarantine Tour. Pretty much just a tour set up. I think there was a minor cash prize and yeah, just a draft tour that was running because everyone's pretty much stuck at home because of this quarantine thing. So yeah, just a fun post DLC Gen 8 draft tournament, and I figured I'd join and use some fun ones that I haven't had a chance to use yet in Gen 8. Stuff like Boots Victini, Taunty with Nasty Plot, Dragapult, a few mons that I was really keen to use. So I drafted a pretty fun team. I got these 6, and I also had a couple of others on my team. I had Course Solar, and I think I had Groddle as well on my squad. So fun team overall, using Mega Steelix as well, which is a Mega that I've always wanted to try but never got around to. So figured this was a good opportunity for it. But yeah, this should be fun. So first up, we're facing off against a guy called El Birabon or something. El Birabon, I guess. And he's got a rain team. He's got Megapert, he had Pelly in the back, and he also had what else did he have? He had Lapras as well, which is actually a centralizing threat because of its Whirlpool Perish Trap set that did factor into how I built my Clef for this one. I think I had to run I ran Teleport on this set so I could avoid being trapped by Lapras, which is always going to be a bit of a pain versus this team. My teams are really weak to freeze dry surf combination, so I felt that Teleport on Clef was going to be clutch for that. But he opted not to bring his Pelipper, which means that he's not bringing necessarily Rain Swampert, or he's bringing Manual Rain elsewhere, or he's bringing a more defensive Swampert aimed at luring stuff like my Rotom with Toxic, maybe being his dedicated Victini check. So we'll have to see as we get into the game, but I'm running sub 3 attacks Victini. This is incredible here. Sub Blue Flare, Grass Knot, and Charge Beam can really just smash this guy. I'm Boots Taunt. I think I had Toxic knockoff on this set, something like that. Taunt. Stall breaks really nicely versus stuff like Mew, Florigis, and can knock off a bunch of different items. Like I said, Clef, I'm Wish, Teleport, I think Soft Boiled, and I'm either Wish Protect or Wish Soft Boiled, Teleport, and Moonblast. Zapdos in Rain is insane. This thing gets Hurricane now, for those of you guys who may not realize that, and yeah, Life Orb Zapdos is crazy strong. So I had to bring Spit F Clef for this one. I'm thinking of a Mixed F Steelix here, which does help me check his Zapdos out of Rain or in Rain if he's not Weatherball, but he should be Weatherball in a matchup like this if he brings Rain. But very Spit F Steelix, and that does help me versus his Florges. His Mew naturally checks Lycanroc pretty well if he's not SD, and also Wheezing as well cannot do too much to me outside of Wisp or Fire Blast. So then I've got a Rotom here, just a pretty standard defensive Rotom. I'm Helmet with Rest, so I can get past Toxic Swampert and force him to attack me. Force him to take Rocky Helmet Chip, which should wear him down over time. And then I've got a sub DD Disable Phantom Force Dragapult, which can actually do really well here if I can catch his Florges on a turn that it Moonblasts. I can really put in the work here in this one. So we're going to jump into the game. Like I said, he opted to leave Pelipper and his Lapras on the bench, so don't have to worry about Auto Rain here. But he's brought the Coughing and the Lycanroc, so certainly a couple of mons that can put in the work here. So I'm going to lead off with my Rotom as he leads off with his Zapdos here. I'm going to hide out into my Clef, scouting for Toxic as he does go for the Volt Switch here. So he's going to Volt out into his Wheezing, and I'm just going to go right out into my Taunt here and threaten out this Wheezing with potentially Hurricane or Knock. But I'm going to Knock here as he gets up his T-Spike and is going to go for the Sludge Bomb. So he's going to start fishing for poisons here, as I am just going to get the Defog off with my Taunt, removing that T-Spike. Removing the T-Spike is pretty important for Dragapult. If I can keep that T-Spike off, Dragapult has a better time versus his Florges doing its sub DD Disable shenanigans. So removing that T-Spike is pretty key there. as he's going to go back. He's going to go into his Zapdos here and go for the Heat Wave here. I go for Clef, sort of scouting for the Heat Wave. I figured that he would make that play after going, hard Clef earlier. He'd expect me maybe to go into my Steelix in the Volt in an attempt to get my Rocks up or Toxic him. So Heat Wave was a decent play on his part there. So catch him there with Clef, and this turn I am going to protect to get a bit more lefties, and I feel like he would stay in Volt this turn. So I'm just going to Wish up here as he goes out into his Weezing. So I am Wish Protect Teleport as opposed to Wish Soft Boil Teleport. So I think that was also because of his Zapdos. Like Life Orb Zapdos in the rain is crazy. So I'm going to go hard into my Torn here as he goes for the Sludge Bomb. He gets the Poison here, so he gets his Poison, and I'm just going to go for the knockoff again, expecting him to go Zap, but he's pretty intent on letting his Weezing take a Hurricane, which is interesting. So I'm going to go hard into my Steelix here as he does go into his Zapdos, and this turn I'm just going to throw off a Toxic as he is going to go for the Heat Wave and do 40% to me. So Spit F Steelix coming in pretty clutch there. I can pass a Wish off to it later in the game with my Clef if I get a Teleport off. But this turn he's going to go into his Pert as I go hard into my Clef and get that thing poisoned, which is pretty nice for me. I don't have to worry about discharge paras or anything like that from his Zapdos. But because Neutralizing Gas is available on Weezing, if Weezing comes in on Clef, I will be taking poison damage, which is a pretty cool interaction with Neutralizing Gas there. So gonna go hard into my Rotom versus his Swampert as he goes for the Liquidation and takes some nice helmet damage. I'm gonna burn him here with Wisp as he chooses to go for Bulk Up, and as soon as he reveals Bulk Up, I realized that his Rest Talk, it just clicked on my head. So instead of staying in here with Rotom and going for Hydro, allowing him to bulk up further and potentially rest up in my face, I'm going to go hard out into Teeny here. I am Boots, so I don't have to care about the Toxic Spike, and I catch him here on the turn he rests, which is nice for me. So I'm just going to go for the Sub here, expecting him to make some sort of pivot out into either Weezing on the Grass move or Zapdos. I'm going to go for Sub here with my Victini, and I can just fire off a Blue Flare here, which is going to deal a nice amount to this Zapdos as he's going to Volt out into his Lycanroc. So Lycanroc comes in, and it's obviously going to force me out here. I'm going to go to my Steelix as he just goes for an SD here, which is a good play on his part, and he's going to take out my Steelix here with a +2 CC Tough Claws, Life Orb, Close Combat. So going to go into my Polt here now. I kind of bluff that I'm like I actually couldn't kill his I don't have like anything on my Dragger to actually take out his Lycanroc in one hit. I got Phantom Force, but that would be a 2-turn move. So he doesn't even know if I'm faster or slower at this point. But I'm just gonna go for Sub here with my Dragapult. One thing Sub did was that it scouted the Sucker Punch from Lycanroc, and I felt like Sucker Punch wouldn't be a bad bring on an SD set. Granted, a Cell Rock like accomplishes sort of a better outcome versus Torn and Victini. Sucker Punch isn't something that I would entirely rule out because CC, a Cell Rock, and Sucker Punch is actually pretty decent versus my team, but he's more likely going to be carrying Edge. Though I felt like Sub was a fine play there as it capitalized on a switch out into something like Weezing or Florigis there. So I'm going to Dragon Dance up here as he does just go for the Moonblast here to break my Sub. And I'm going to get my Sub broken here as I get it up to +1. He's going to protect here as I go for the Disable. And yeah, I could have DD'd up again, or I could have Phantom Force there, but Sub was always Disable was always my play there, as he is gonna just stay in a Moonblast this turn. So I can't get that off, unfortunately, but I can Wish up my team with Clef in here, and if I can get, because Dragapult's now been weakened, being poisoned, my focus has shifted to capitalizing on Victini as my Wincon. Victini can win this, and if I can keep my team healthy enough to take a hit from Lycanroc, that is really the only threat to Victini at this point. So we're both going to Wish up. He's going to go hard out into his Weezing as I teleport out into my Dragapult with Clef getting the Wish back up. And I think this turn I just go hard out into my Torn, as he is going to go hard out into his Florigis here. So I go into Torn, hard out into Torn because I know he's gonna switch out versus Drag. He doesn't know what my set is. Victini's Florigis is a pretty solid check to my Dragapult now that it is poisoned, And getting my taunt in on the floor just means that I can get a bit of health regen that I couldn't get earlier because of neutralizing gas. And this is going to allow me to bring back in my clef and just wish up again, ideally getting in my Victini if I can. I'm going to wish up once more as he wishes up himself and goes out to his Zapdos. I'm going to teleport back out into my Victini, getting that thing back up to a nice amount of health. And he's going to again wish up his Zapdos here, but it's going to be pretty low after this blue flare as he does just volt out. And he's going to bring back out his Lycanroc here. So now I'm going to go hard into my defensive Rotom as he just goes for the Accel Rock, takes some helmet damage, which is nice, and some Life Orb. And this turn I'm going to double. I think I double out. Yeah, double out into my Clef, as I knew he wouldn't stay in there. He'd more than likely go out into his Florges or something there. But I'm going to teleport back out into my Victini on his Weezing. Teleport is such a sick move on Clef. As this turn, yeah, so I'm going to go back. I get Clef in on Weezing, and I sub up as he goes. Yeah, so I bring Clef, I bring my Victini in on his Weezing, and I sub up as he goes into his Swampert. I can potentially abuse this sleeping Swampert if he doesn't get Liquidation here. I'm gonna go for the Grass Knot. Does a ton, easy to KO as he gets Bulk up here. Now, Blue Flare won't take out this Spidef Swampert at that range of health. He's definitely Spidef, Grass Knot, Collapse, offensive Swampert. If he's not Spidef, and that damage definitely reveals that he's Spidef there. So unfortunately Blue Flare won't take him out. Charge Beam isn't going to do a thing. So I'm going to stay in here and click Grass Knot with my Victini. I remove Pert. He has to go into Lycanroc to break my sub, which means he loses his Lycanroc, and Victini essentially wins the rest of this game. So by itself, he's going to go into Zapdos here on my Grass Knot though, and he is going to get the Static Para, which is insanely lucky. So this dude, he gets the Static Para, and that is going to mean that I cannot outspeed stuff like Mew, unfortunately, and I can't. Whilst I could stay in with Mew and click Blue Flare twice, I can't risk getting parried. There are better ways to play this. Had he not got the Static Para, then I always stay in here with my Victini. So he's forced to take out my sub with his Lycanroc, and that means he's going to go down there. He's going to go into Mew here. Now, had I not got parried, this is what I was talking about. I wouldn't really be in a situation where I'm forced to switch out. For all I know, he could be Calm Mind, he could be Nasty Plot, he could be Dragon Nuts, he could be Rock Polish. But the point is, Victini, all Victini needed to do was click Blue Flare twice versus this Mew. If he's Calm Mind, then I have a Toxic Torn, and I also have my my sub-disable Phantom Force Dragapult. But because I am parried, I can't really play around with getting fully parried here. So I'm just going to go hard onto my Torn, as he does reveal to be Dragon Dance, and this is definitely unfortunate. This is what I mean by that para really mattering on Victini there. He's going to Dragon Dance twice, reveal to be Lumberry, which is cool prep on a Dragon Dance set, and he is going to take out my Torn here with the Psychic Fangs. I'm going to speed this up a bit. I'm going to go into my Rotom, as Psychic Fangs does take out my Rotom, and now I'm going to go back into my Victini, as he fails to take me out here with the Psychic Fangs, and a crit does 77. So he would have been 2-KO'd by 2 Blue Flares, and that would have been my play to stay in with Victini and just click that twice, had a knockoff parrot. So unfortunately we are going to lose this first game here to a Static Para, which is going to send us down to the losers bracket, and we can fight our way back up from there into finals if we can make it far enough. So that was a fun game. I felt I was definitely in control there with Teeny, but he ended up getting lucky there with the Static Para, and that really turned things around for him. So I'm going to pause it here and jump into our next one. Alright, so here with my second game, and this time I'm playing, I think he was called Nico Greco, and yeah, he's got a pretty interesting team. Not the most threatening in the world, but he definitely does have a lot of power. On the team he's got Haxorus and Conk, which are two menaces, two really powerful ones. Spike support in Rose, and obviously Rocks in Renregis. A pretty solid Victini sort of check in Incineroar, but I am special with Focus Blast and Blue Flare, as well as I think Toxic on the set with U-Turn. So I've got means of getting around his team pretty well with Victini. I'm a really fat Boots Nasty Plot Torn, which can just go in. I think I'm Hurricane, Nasty Plot Hurricane, Nasty Plot Hurricane, Heat Wave and U-Turn. Clef, I'm a Life Orb set, Life Orb Encore with Flamethrower and Moonblast. Softball just destroys his team. Encore means that Carmine Slowbro can't really do much to me. I'm a defensive or mixed defensive Steelix, which helps with both his Haxorus and his Conkeldurr. EQ switch-ins don't exist, so it's really just nice to get some chip and to get up my rocks. I'm Scarfed Dragger here, does pretty well in the end game with Scarfed Dragon Darts. Can pivot around in the early game with U-turn if I need to get it in, but I scouted this guy's replay. I don't think he's like one of the most experienced guys. No offense to him or anything, but I think he's more on the casual player side, so just having that Scarfed Dragger in the back is just nice insurance versus some like rogue DD set or sort of speed boosting set. And then I've got a Rocky Helmet Rotom here aimed at least chipping knockoff Incineroar. So that's going to be the team. We're going to jump into the game and see how it goes. So I'm going to lead Taunt as he leads his Haxorus. So I'm just going to U-turn out into my Steelix. He's going to Dragon Dance turn 1. I'm going to Mega Up and just click EQ as he stays in and goes for Crunch. So yeah, it does 16. But I'm going to throw up the rocks here as he's going to go into Runerigus, and I'm just going to go for the Toxic. I want to get this thing on a timer, which is going to be nice for both my Dragapult and my Victini, as he's going to stand and go for the EQ himself, which does 25%, so we're still at a decent amount of health to be able to check his Haxorus. So I'm going to switch out here, going to go into my Taunt on his Body Press, which bounces off. I'm going to Nasty Plot up here as he makes the switch out into his Slowbro. And yeah, I'm going to Nasty Plot up here, and the following turn I'm going to click Hurricane as he's revealed to be lefties, and he's going to go for Ice Beam and crit me. So yeah, we lose Thorn to crit Ice Beam. So yeah, this tournament is off to a pretty haxy start, but that's all good. We're still in it, and Rotom is gonna come in here. I'm going to go for the Volt Switch here as he's going to bring in his Roserade. I'm going to go back out into Teeny and just click Blue Flare I think this turn, because he doesn't have a ton to switch into it outside of Incineroar, which is going to take rocks. But his Slowbro gets burnt here on the Blue Flare, which is going to whittle him down a little bit further, as he's going to bring his Runerigus in here. I just U-turn out, go out into my Clef, I think, and just click Moonblast, as Life Orb Moonblast switch-ins are pretty non-existent at this point. He's going to sack off his Runerigus here, and I think bring in Slowbro again. I don't know why he went out to Slowbro as opposed to going into Roserade, but he's going to go in click Trick Room here. This turn I softball it up. The reason I softballed is because I really did feel like he'd just go for something like Psychic there, or just attack my Clef based on how he's playing. But he actually goes out into Keld, so into Conkeldurr, which is I guess you could argue it's a god read on his part, not expecting me to click Moonblast there again, which I'd shown to click the turn previous, but either that or he was sacking it off, I don't know. But I'm going to go out to my Steelix here as he goes for the Bulldoze, and now I'm going to go out to my Rotom on the Bulldoze as he is going to go for it once more. Now I'm going to go back into, I Volt here, knowing I can live any hit, and this is going to give me Dragapult this turn. To click Dragon Dance, I believe, here, as he does go into his Slowbro. Yeah, so it takes Slowbro out with Dragon Darts, and there's nothing really he can do now against Dragapult in the same game. If I can get a bit more chip off with Conkeldurr, Scarf Dragger looking really nice. So gonna go out into Rotom here on Bulldoze, as he's revealed not to be banned. I think he was like some Life Orb Sheer Force set or something like that. The damage calcs were kind of a little confusing there, but he does reveal to be Life Orb, so he is indeed Life Orb there. So gonna go out to Clef here and smack him with Moonblast, take him out there, as Roserade is finally going to come in at last on Clef. I'm just going to go out into my Victini here, as he does go for the Synth. Now he's going to bring in his Incineroar here, and I think I just go for the, do I go Raw Focus? No, I go Blue Flare into Focus Blast, I think. As, no, I don't even risk Focus Blast, I just go into my Rotom. Yeah, that was a better play for sure, as Rotom is bait for Roserade and it's potential setup fodder for his Haxorus, so no point in preserving that. He's going to go for Darkest Lariat, revealing to be banned, and I'm just gonna actually outspeed him with Clef, which is interesting. And do I outspeed, or did he hit me first? I think I do outspeed actually, because I'm pretty fast on Clef. I'm gonna go for Flamethrower versus his Rose, but he goes for Leech instead of Sludge Bomb, which is gonna give me Victini the following turn to just take him out here. And the reason I wanted Victini in was just so I could U-turn out and get my Dragapult in off the U-turn, just to click Scuffed Dragon Darts. But he's going to go for the first impression as opposed to Dragon Dancing. I think Dragon Dancing was his best play, trying to capitalize on a choke, but obviously I had an out in that endgame, but he chose to just go for the first impression. So that's going to be my first game in the losers bracket. We're going to move on to game 2. Alright, so we're back with game 3, and this time we're up against Bredibus, who has a pretty cool team. Mega Altaria with Deoxys D and AG, Buzzwole, Shuckle, and his Inteleon. He had a couple of mons he didn't bring, but these are the main threats from what I remember. I got a pretty cool Victini. This time I'm Rest Talk with Toxic and Blue Flare. This set is aimed at beating the typical Deoxys sets that he likes to run, as well as beating down an Altaria. Altaria really cannot beat this Victini in the long term with Toxic. If he's a Dragon Dance set, then I have my my Wisp Rotom and my not my Wisp Rotom, my Curse Steelix, and I've got Toxic to wear that thing down. I've got Taunt, so really no variant of Altaria can beat this team. Clef also handles it pretty well, but yeah, essentially Blue Flare is pretty nice across the board. As well as Toxic. What likes to take Blue Flare doesn't like to take Toxic. So then I have a Boots Taunt with Taunt. I think I'm Taunt, Heat Wave. I'm very defensive, aimed at being able to take on Aegis Slash at +6. I've got Taunt, Heat Wave. I think I had Knock somewhere. I'm potentially Defog off it yet, but those are the sort of the main moves there. Then I got Curse Steelix. This one is a monster. He's bringing webs, which is actually even nicer for my licks, but Curse Steelix with Garaball and EQ really just goes in here. I've got a Carmine Clef. I think I'm Carmined, or what am I? I think I'm Carmined. It was a while ago that I played this one, but no, I'm actually sub. I think I'm sub. I'm sub 2 attacks. Sub Moonblast, Flamethrower. That's because in most games, like in most situations, his Aegis Slash is going to be the Clef switch in, meaning that I sub on something like Buzzwole. He brings in AG, is forced to attack to break my sub, and I can knock him out with Flamethrower there. I think that was the reasoning. I might have changed this to Calm Mind. It doesn't really come to play in this one, but either way, Flamethrower and Moonblast Clef really goes in, especially with Toxic support from Victini. I'm Rest Talk Rotom. This is really just here for the Inteleon, as that mon is actually a threat with Spec, Snipe Shot, scoring crits versus my team, so had to have the rest for recovery there. And then on my Dragapult, I am a E-Belt set with Hex, T-Bolt, U-Turn, and Sucker Punch. So that is going to be the squad. We're going to jump into the match and see how it all went down. So I'm going to lead Rotom as he leads Shuckle. I'm going to Volt out here as he just sets up his sticky webs here. I'm just going to throw my rocks up as he goes out into his Inteleon. And I'm going to go back out into my Rotom on his Inteleon's Hydro. He's not Specs based on that damage, which is good information to have. But it does mean he can switch up his moves, and U-Turn is going to be chipping down my Rotom. So I'm glad that I did have rest on this set. I'm going to Volt out. He doesn't have a ground type, so Volt's always pretty safe, as this gives me Steelix versus AG, and I can just go for the EQ here. But I curse up, actually. I curse up. Curse is really nice because like it catches, it sort of abuses a Deoxys pivot, and it puts me in a more favorable position versus a Buzzwole pivot if he wants to come in and take an EQ. I'm actually at +1, -2, and it gives my Garaball a ton of damage. Easily to it goes, even a defensive Buzzwole at that point. So he's going to go for the rocks with his Shuckle here as I just take him out with 2 EQs. He's going to knock on and preserve my Gyros because Gyro actually does nothing to Shuckle because it's so slow. But he's going to go into his Inteleon here as I'm just going to bring back in my Rotom, and he's going to Hydra here. So I'm going to rest up as he U-turns out the following turn. Got to keep this nice and healthy. And because I am Sleep Talk on this set, I can either Paralyze or Volt switch out versus the Inteleon if he wants to stay in versus me while I am asleep. So he's going to go into his AG as I go back out into my Licks, and he's going to fire off a Shadow Claw. Going to bounce off, going to do very little, as it does 13. As I can just go for the EQ here, I think. as he goes out into his Deoxys. And that takes 39 with a crit, so Deoxys is really bulky. But I'm going to curse up here as he does just heal up with his Deoxys. Gariball should be doing around half, maybe a bit more if he's more specially defensively inclined, but he is more phys def based on that damage. So instead of staying in and taking multiple seismic tosses, I'm going to go into my Victini, which is designed to lure and to kind of take on this Deoxys as he recovers up. Based on the way he'd played some of his games, I did expect him to run T-Wave on his Deoxys. I thought that he'd more than likely stay in and attempt to paralyze a threat like Victini. And because I am rest on this set, that doesn't bother me too much at all. I'm more than happy to make the trade with Toxic there, as he is going to paralyze Martini, but we put him on a timer, and I think right here I just go for the blue flare as he just goes for the seismic toss. Now here I'm going to rest up, as he's more than likely going to recover up himself or switch out, but he just goes for the seismic toss as I get my rest off. So this is really nice. Suddenly I'm faster again than Deoxys and faster than everything bar Inteleon. So I'm going to sleep talk a Toxic as he just recovers up, and this turn he's going to switch out into his Inteleon on my second sleep talk, and I think I sleep talk a Toxic here, which puts Inteleon on a timer, which is pretty useful for me now. Rotom is even more of an irritation to this moment as he just U-turns out. I go into Torn here as opposed to going to Rotom. I'd kind of conditioned him that Rotom was my pivot into Inteleon, so it was more in his interest to U-turn out than do like 18% with Hydro versus my full health Rotom. So we get him there with the Taunt pivot as he now goes out to his AG. I'm just going to taunt him here, preventing any kind of SD shenanigans, but he actually reveals to have Toxic, and that's good to know. He's more of a defensively inclined AG, which makes sense based on the Shadow Claw damage earlier. I'm going to go for Heat Wave as we actually get the burn, which sucks for him, but really I just wanted to get some damage off, but that certainly is going to make his AG even more useless in this matchup, so that was unfortunate. But you can see based on that damage, what did it do? Ironhead did 17%, so without the burn it would have been doing about 35% damage, which is all just free regen for Taunt. So yeah, sort of just made even AG more useless than it already was here, but certainly unfortunate for Bredibus there. I'm gonna go for Heat Wave as no, I'm gonna go for Hurricane here as he brings in his Altaria, and that takes 29. He's gonna crit me with Body Slam there, which is sort of gonna force out my Torn as he reveals Body Slam. I'd rather not get paralyzed if I can help it, because Torn is one of my better checks to a potential Scarf Buzzwole. And he's going to go hard at this is AG here as I go out into my Victini. I'm just going to go for the blue flare, keep that thing nice and low, as his burnt Shadow Claw is only going to do 20%. So it would have done about 40% if he wasn't burnt, which is pretty nice. I'm really defensive on this Teeny because I wanted to have a guaranteed check to something like +4 Shadow Sneak AG. I ensured that with the boots on, I wouldn't go down to a +4 Shadow Sneak, something like that. It could have been +6 even, I'm not sure. But he's going to go into his Inteleon here, and I'm just going to go back out into my Rotom, as he's going to fire off a Hydro here and miss, as I do just Sleep Talk. I think I hard T-Wave here actually. I'd burnt enough turns that I could get off a T-Wave. No, I hadn't. No, that's later on. So I'm going to Sleep Talk a T-Wave here as he goes into his Altaria, and now I'm just going to go hard into my Clef, who after his Altaria is shown to be like not invested in attack at all. He's got Body Slam. I'm thinking he's more of a support set, so I'm just going to go for Moonblast with Clef as he brings in his Deoxys. I don't want Clef getting paralyzed, so I'm going to switch back out into my Victini here, my Deoxys check, and I can just click Blue Flare the following turn, as I do take out Deoxys there. So Deoxys defense not doing a ton here because of rest Teeny. So Boots is such a blessing for Teeny. I think it's such a cool mon this gen with Boots access. Just completely changes the dynamic of this mon. He's going to go for the Cotton Guard here, get up to +3 defense, and then get paralyzed the following turn as Clef comes in. He's going to get paralyzed again, which sucks for Bread, but I really see how he was coming out of that exchange with Mega Altaria live. Like, it was always going to be 2 occurred at some point by Moonblast getting outsped, but I guess he could have attempted to stall out some more Moonblast. Not too sure, but I had more Moonblast than he did Roost, so I don't really know what he would have done there. But Altaria does go down, and he's going to bring in his Inteleon here. I'm just going to go harder into my Rotom. Want to keep Clef around in case he crits my Clef, and I have one less thing to check his Buzzwole with. I'm pretty sure at this point in the game that his Buzzwole is Scarf, based on how he's kept it in the back. He hasn't used it defensively to check my Steelix or anything, so I'm pretty sure he's Scarfed. And Scarf does make sense versus his team if he can remove Clef. But he's going to go out into his Buzzwole here, and I'm just going to Sleep Talk a Rest, and then go hard out into my Clef. I think here, no, into my Taunt as he goes for Poison Jab, expecting Clef. That's right. But he's going to get the Poison Jab Poison, so I'm just going to go hard into Licks. I'm pretty certain, like I said, I was pretty concrete certain that he was Scarf at this point. So I'm just going to go into Steelix and click Gyro Ball as Inteleon's going to come in. And I think he's going to bring back in a Buzzwole and click Close Combat or something like that. Close Combat or Drain Punch. And Clef is going to be able to tank and take him out. So he's going to go for Ice Punch, actually. Ice Punch, I guess, the best thing he had to take on the rest of my team. And Clef is going to wrap this one up with a Moonblast. So that was a pretty like, obviously pretty dominant 6-0, but I think like having that Boots Teeny State here really just made it tough for Bredibus, just having his Deoxys Toxic and his Altaria not really being able to do anything here. Certainly a tougher one for him there, but not the greatest matchup for him in the world for sure. So I'm going to pause it and jump into the next one. Alright guys, so we're back here with the next game, and this time we're facing a team with Lando I. That's not Sheer Force, it's a Sand Force variant, but it's still a threat for sure. Mega Lop with U-Turn, Laddie, Rotom. He's got Sylveon for my Dragapult, which is pretty good for him, so that definitely changes the way I have to build when they've got a dominant fairy. And then he's got Vileplume in the back. So what I'm seeing is banned Victini food, and that's what I've brought to this one. Rotom's heavily pressured. It's pressured to check Torn as well as Teeny here, so it's not going to have the greatest of time checking both. And if I can knock Torn, if I can knock his Rotom with my Torn early, it really opens up Victini to just click ban V-Create. I'm Fizdef Clef for his Lop, and I'm actually sub Stealth Rock's Steelix to capitalize on abusing Sylveon needing to switch out versus my Steelix. I get Steelix in pretty easily on Sylveon with U-Turn Dragapult, so that's really nice for me. Sub's just a cheeky little like tech to kind of capitalize on a sack if I'm in that position. But for the most part, Stone Edge EQ sub is going to be really solid here. I'm actually Trick Rotom here, so I'm really fat. I'm like calm, almost max BDF with enough speed to trick his Lando whilst underspeeding his Laddie. It's sort of like maintaining the illusion that I'm not Scarfed, but I'm fast enough to blow that thing away. So in a situation where, say I've got my Clef in versus his Lando and he wants to SD up or click Gravity, I can always switch out to my Rotom, avoid and you know, Oko on the following turn with Scarfed Hydra as opposed to underspeeding and getting blown away by EQ onto Gravity or something like that. So that's the thought process there. It also cripples his Laddie and his Vileplume, as well as his Sylveon. If he brings some sort of Carmine to attacks Sylveon or something like that, I can always trick that in the late game. So we're going to jump into it and see how it went. I'm going to lead Rotom. It's on fast throw now, so I'm going to chill that out a bit. I'm going to lead Rotom as he leads Lando. Now, turn 1, I don't want to reveal that I'm Scarfed. I'm just going to switch out to Torn as it covers him going out into Laddie or Vileplume there. I am AV on my Torn, so I'm pretty versatile around his special attack is this game for sure. So he's actually going to stay in and go for U-Turn. That kind of makes me think that he could be Scarf himself, but more than likely he's just not respecting the Scarf to bring on Rotom. That's sort of my thinking at this point in time. I think Scarfed Lando is kind of average versus my team, but it certainly could be the case. Now he's going to go into Rotom as I'm going to U-Turn out. I'm going to go out into my own Rotom on his Overheat here as he predicts me to go into my Steelix. And this turn I'm just going to fire for Hydro. No, sorry, this later on. I'm going to Volt out as he actually stays in, which is interesting. He stays in, goes to the Volt, either expecting me to Volt myself or expecting to outspeed my Rotom. I think based on the Overheat damage, he assumed that I was really SpDef, which I am, and thus wouldn't be able to outspeed him. But because I'm Scarfed, we do move first. As he's going to get the slow volt switch out, he's going to go into his lop. I'm just going to go hard out into my Steelix here on the likely return. But he actually goes to fake out. No, not return, I mean mega kick. Return's no longer in the game, but mega kick is a really strong option that Lop has to hit fairies now, so it's kind of what it has to do now. It can't rely on return, so mega kick's pretty strong, and Steelix is a good sort of pivot into that. Even high jump kick won't be able to do that much to Steelix, so I can just scare it out with a potential body press here. As he's going to go into Rotom, I just take this opportunity to set up my rocks, and I'm going to go this turn out to Victini as he fires off an overheat now. Band Victini's inside. Rotom is going to be 2-KO'd. There's not really much he can do. He's revealed to be overheat Volt Switch. He could be Nasty Plot, Pain Split on this set. That's definitely something that matches up pretty well versus a team like mine, so I don't really expect to have T-Wave. I think T-Wave's kind of sus versus me, though he could bring it to lure something like Dragapult or Clef for sure, but I'm pretty content with just clicking V-Create here and nabbing a kill if he switches out, or weakening this Rotom severely for Torn in the late game. So he is going to stay and click Pain Split, and this is nice for me. I can just follow it up with another V-Creator, so he gets the outspeed after the V-Create drops. And Vileplume's just going to die. So now he kind of has to pick one now versus Victini, which is really solid for me. As he's going to go out to his Lando here. I'm just going to go hard into my Rotom, as I think he gets up his rocks, which is nice. And again, so he's shown rocks in U-turn. I'm not really thinking he's scuffed at this point, but he didn't. And the fact that he didn't U-turn out there made me think that, alright, he's clued into the fact that I'm scarfed and he doesn't want to risk his Lando taking a scuffed Hydra. I still wasn't really thinking at this point that he was scuffed himself and therefore locked into rocks. I thought he was just playing conservatively around the scuff Rotom. But otherwise, he's going to go out to Laddie here as I just go for the Hydra. Hydra's pretty free at this point, as he is just going to... I think he goes to the Psyshock here and he reveals to be Specs. My Torn's nice and fat, so I can tank anything from this Laddie, but he has revealed to be Specs, so that is good and bad. It's good in the sense that I've got ways to play around it in my Dragapult. I can always outspeed it, and my Torn, but it's definitely a dangerous set. It's going to get a kill versus my team if I'm not careful, so I just U-turn out to Victini, who has one more switch and can nab one more kill at this point in the game, which is pretty crucial. Forcing a kill, forcing other Rotom to die or something else is really big at this point in the game. So he is going to sack off Rotom, which really opens up my Torn, as well as my Steelix. Now I don't have to worry about Rotom coming in on EQ or Heavy Slam or something like that, and potentially being able to threaten me out with overheat. So that's pretty big for Steelix. I'm just going to go out to my Clef here on his Lop as he just goes for the Strength. So he's running Strength instead of Mega Kick. Doesn't want to miss, I guess, as he's going to U-turn out here. Going to go out to his Sylveon, as I think I just wish up. No, I knock off here. That's right, I knock off expecting him to switch out, as I knock off his Babiri Berry, which is really solid for my Steelix down the track. It's going to open up more of an endgame with Steelix now that I've removed his item. And the fact that he's Babiri makes me think that he could be Mystical Fire in this set. He might be like a Wish Protect or a Wish Calm Mind. The fact that he's got Babiri Berry implies that he wants to stay in versus Steelix, as there really isn't any much more of a reason, unless he wanted to, have a guarantee check to my Dragapult. He's fearing Steel Winning or something like that, but definitely made me think that this Sylveon could be a Wincon of his, so that was interesting. He's going to switch out here into his Laddie as I go into my Rotom here, and I'm just going to switch hard out into my Victini, sacking it here, seeing what he wants to lock himself into as he clicks Psychic. Reason I didn't Volt there, like I said earlier, even though I am Scarfed, I underspeed Laddie intentionally, so that is the reason I didn't Volt there. But I'm going to bring in Dragger here, and he is going to go out into his Sylveon as I just U-turn here, and I get a chance to bring in my Steelix here, which is really nice for me. So Steelix is inside, and this thing has lost its Babiri Berry, so I'm just going to click Garable here, as he's going to go into his Lando and take a ton from that. So this is now in Rock's range. I'm going to sack off my Dragapult. At this point I didn't think I was sacking it. I knew that I was bulky enough to take an EQ if he went for it, and it also capitalized on him potentially SDing, expecting me to go into my Clef, or clicking Gravity, expecting to go into my Rotom or something like that. So I wasn't really thinking he was EQ. He was Scuffed, but he actually reveals to be Scuffed here, and that's good to know. So I've lost my Dragapult, which is concerning for his Laddie and his Lop, but it's not the end of the world. I've got outs versus those, and this gives me good info on this Lando. This Lando's dead now unless he's got Defog on his Laddie and he hasn't revealed it yet. But I'm just going to U-turn out, bring back in my Steelix as he goes out into a Sylveon, and right here I'm going to reveal sub. This is the kind of situation I plan for when I tech sub onto Elix. This is a nice way to kind of take advantage of those kind of sacks, and this is going to result in me getting another kill with Steelix that I wouldn't have got otherwise. Would have been forced out by Laddie here, so that's really nice for me. Laddie's going to drop, and Lop's going to come in here. I'm going to preserve Steelix. It is definitely the best way I have of taking out his Sylveon if he's some sort of calm mindset. So he's going to U-turn out into a Sylveon. I'm just going to stay in here with Taunt and just go for Sludge Bombs. I'm going to get the poison eventually, and it's going to pressure this Sylveon to continuously wish, which is really nice for me. I can always hard out into my Steelix and start clicking Heavy Slam, or Gyro Ball, whichever one I'm packing, but in this instance, it's nice to just fish for the poisons. I don't need Taunt for Lop. Lop's probably going to outspeed me anyway, and the best thing that Taunt can do versus this Sylveon is go for Sludge Bomb. So this is always my play, as he is finally going to get poisoned, and he's going to fire off the Hyper Voice. We're going to be out of range of another, and I'm just going to start wishing up with Clef eventually after this Protect, as I want to get my Steelix nice and healthy. If I can get my Steelix back to full, I don't have to worry about any sort of Hyper Voice, boosted Hyper Voice critting my Steelix and taking me out for 50. So he's revealed to be Wish Protect, Calm Mind, Hyper Voice, so he is walled by Steelix. So I'm going to eventually pass the Wish out. The poison is keeping him chipped down each turn, so that's pretty nice for me. It's giving me some nice residual, as Steelix is going to come back up to full here, as he's just going to wish up once again. And this is a pretty solid spot for me. Lop can't come in on a Gyro, and eventually his Sylveon is going to run out of wishes or get low enough to the point where Gyro is going to take him out. So I'm going to Gyro here. It does 47, so that in conjunction with the poison is going to be pressuring him pretty heavily. He's just going to attempt to Wish Protect, but yeah, Steelix is going to come out of this on top, and I think it's the next turn that, yeah, so he just goes to Hyper Voice there, knowing that it wasn't in the cards for him, and Lop's going to come in here and die to Clef the following turn. So Steelix is going to go down to Close Combat, and Lop is going to go down to the Moonblast here. I think I was like really spit out on my Steelix, so that's why I went down to CC, but his Lop's going to go down, and that is going to be this one, so we're going to pause it and jump into the next. Alright, so we're here with the next one, and this time we're playing off against Muck. He's got a Lop team with Zygarde, Clef, Rachi, Gren. This is actually a team that is like identical to Young Goda's team that we had in DPL Season 1, which is interesting. But anyway, we are here. I got sub, mixed Victini, really bulky AV Torn, T-Wave Hex, Pivot, Dragapult, Body Press, Steelix, Fizdef, Clef, Lop, and again a Trick Spidef Rotom. So we're going to jump right into the game and see how it went. I'm going to lead Taunt as he leads Rachi here. I'm just going to knock turn 1, as he reveals to be Weakness Policy, and he's going to click T-Bolt this turn, and he's going to get the full para, which is pretty rough. He gets the full para. Taunt would have been really nice to keep around. I probably would have just U-turned out the following turn into something like Victini, or actually I would have gone out to my Rotom most likely and just tricked him, or something like that, locking him into one move, and I would be able to play around that after. But he does get the full parry here, which is going to mean I've got to sack off my Taunt, which is unfortunate. Taunt is a really good check to Gren, but I'm going to bring in Tini here and just knock out this Rachi with V-Create. Blown away, as he's now going to bring in his Gren here, and I'm just going to go hard into my Scarf Rotom. He's going to U-turn out and go out into his own Rotom. I'm going to hard out into my Victini, bluffing that I'm not, into my Draga, bluffing that I'm not Scarf of my own, and also scouting for his Scarf, because Scarf Rotom on his side is definitely a potential option here. So going to go into my Draga here, as he does go for the Leaf Storm. That does a lot, revealing that he's offensive. He's got special attack investment for sure. I'm going to U-turn out, get a nice chunk off on this Gren. Going to go out to my Rotom and finish this Gren off with a Scarf Volt Switch. So that's another big threat out of the way. So going to go out to Pult here. Dragapult's got a solid matchup versus everything else. I can T-Wave the Clef if I really want to, or just pivot out into Tini or Steelix, but he's going to go into his Lop and fake out. I'm just going to U-turn here, out into my Steelix, as he's going to go for the Mega Kick here, and that's going to do 14 damage, 14%. So that's really solid. We're going to get Body Press damage off on this Rotom, which is going to do a ton. Going to do over half, so that's really nice for us. I've got a lot of spit out from my Steelix actually, which is going to be useful for this Rotom or Clef in the late game if I do need to take a hit from either of those. So he's going to go for the Leaf Storm here and deal a nice chunk to Teeny, 31% solid damage, as I'm just going to sub here, I believe, as he goes. No, I don't actually sub. The reason I don't sub is, like, if I sub and he goes into Zygarde, which is what I expected him to do, then he gets a turn to attack, and he gets one turn to attack. I've got to attack him twice with Glaciate. It's sort of like the same difference. I end up at a higher amount of health if I just attack him on the switch with Glaciate, because if I sub, I lose 25% of his health. He brings in Zygarde. He can E-Speed, or he can E-Speed, or even just go for the 1,000 arrows, break my sub, and then E-Speed the following turn. So I'd be left at a lower amount of health overall, and just going for hard Glaciate is the best situation for me. If he goes into Lop, I can V-Create the following turn, outspeeding it because of the speed drops. So Glaciate's going to smack Zygarde, as he's just going to go for the banned 1,000 banned extreme speed. Zygarde's gone, which is really nice for me. Victini's still around, healthy enough to take on Clef, as his Lop is going to come in and go for the close combat, expecting Steelix. So Steelix, Clef, really nice like ways of sort of messing with Lop and forcing it to pick a move and potentially get blocked by either of their typing. So he's going to get a crit there with close combat, and then he's going to miss the Mega Kick, which wouldn't have actually taken Clef out, but it would have weakened me for the Rotom. As this turn he's going to go into his own Rotom, and I'm just going to switch out, going to go into my Dragapult in case he wanted to trick, but he's just going to go for the Leaf Storm, and that's going to do 45 under half, as I'm just going to U-turn out. He hangs on with a thread of health left, as I am just going to go into my Victini, and I will be able to outspeed him here and just blow him away with Glaciate, but he actually reveals to be Scarf of his own. So he's Scarfed Rotom that isn't faster than my Dragapult. So kind of similar situation to my last game where I brought a Scarfed Rotom that wasn't faster than his Laddie, and in this case that means that I'm going to lose my Victini there. So Dragapult's going to come back in. I'm just going to U-turn out into my Clef, and I'm going to U-turn out into my Rotom on his Clef, as this turn I'm going to trick. I could have just vaulted out into my Steelix, but at this point I don't know if his Clef is Fire Blast, and I want to play conservatively. I'm fine with him making these switches into Rotom. Eventually I'll get him with Volt Switch, kill his Rotom off, and then bring in my Steelix to finish off Clef. But if I can, I want to play this endgame conservatively, so I'm going to trick here as he brings in his Rotom. That's a good play on the trick, and he's going to go for the Leaf Storm here and threaten my Clef out, take me out here with the second Leaf Storm, as this is going to give me Steelix this turn. Now I go into Dragapult because I don't want to risk getting crit by Leaf Storm. I think that was my reasoning here, as I'm just going to be able to U-turn out into Steelix this turn on his Clef, which is a bit of a safer option for me. As he's going to Rocks up, I'm just going to he gets up his Rocks. I don't know why he Rocks up there. I guess he just got Rocks up to kill off Dragapult, prevent me from being able to switch in all the time. But he's going to go for Moonblast. It's going to bounce off. Steelix is going to clap Clef, and then Rotom is going to come in here, fail to take out Steelix with Leaf Storm, and then drop to the Heavy Slam, the Body Press. So that was a fun one. Big Steelix putting in work. We're going to pause it and jump into the next. Alright, so now we're back with the next one, facing this guy called Godin. He's got a cool team. He's got Mega Sceptile, which I think is a nice Mega in a meta game with no Hidden Power Ice. But it is definitely does get a hard time versus stuff like Ferrothorn and Scizor with no Hidden Power Fire access. That being said, I think it's a solid Mega. Being able to outspeed Dragapult, Mega Lopunny, Zeraora is really solid for it. He's got Melmetal, big threat, but I do have Rocky Helmet Rotom on this team. Mance is cool, gets Hurricane now. Finny Silvally a monster, and yeah, so he's got a solid team. I'm running Flame Charge, Weakness Policy, Victini, solid win game in this win con in this endgame. Assault Vest Torn, Curse, Steelix, Rocky Helmet Rest, Rotom for Toxic, Melmetal. Mixed defensive Clef with Unaware for any kind of Rotom or Salamence issues. Also beats Carmine Finny, which is nice, that lacks Taunt. Again, useful for non-Silvally Steel or Poison variants as well. And then I have a Haban, a really bulky offensive Haban Dragapult, which can lure his Sceptile and smack his Mance. So that is going to be the team. We're going to jump right into it and see how it went. I'm going to lead my Dragapult here as he leads with his Rotom. He's just going to vault out here and take a lot from this modest Shadow Ball, and he's going to go into his Silvally here, which does reveal to be normal. And I'm gonna go for the U-turn here and go into my Steelix as he just parting shots out. No, U-turns out. Same thing really. He's going to bring in his Rotom, and I'm going to go out into my Torn here on his Rotom's Volt Switch because I am Assault Vest, just scouting his Overheat or his Will-O-Wisp potentially. He's going to go into his Melmetal here as I go out into my Rotom. I want to scout if he's banned or if he's got Superpower or something like that. He's just going to go for Toxic, and that gives me good info. He could still be banned, honestly, based on the lack of lefties, but we'll have to see. I'm going to Volt Switch out as he doesn't have a ground. It's pretty free at this point. And the longer I can prevent Mega Sceptile from Mega Evolving by pressuring it with Taunt T, the freer my Rotom's Volts are. So I'm going to go and click Knock here, expecting him to switch out into his Melmetal or into his Rotom Heat. But he is going to go into his Melmetal, and he reveals to be Ochre. As I just U-turn out here, going to go out into my Steelix, or my Rotom. I go into my Rotom here as he goes for Thunder Punch, and he's going to take that nice Rocky Helmet damage. So I'm going to Volt Switch out this turn and go into my Steelix as he actually makes the prediction and goes for the Earthquake here. So nice play on his part, expecting me to Volt there. He's going to Earthquake once again as I get my rocks up, and this turn I'm going to switch back out into my Rotom as he is going to go for the Thunder Punch and take a bit more helmet damage, which is going to put him low enough in range of Volt Switch here. So instead of resting up, I'm going to Volt here. Like I said, I don't want to give his Sceptile a chance to come in and get his Mega Evolution off. And granted, you know, I could have rested up here to be healthier for something later on, like his Silvally. I want to keep up offensive momentum. I've really established that at this point in the match, and I don't really want to give it up because I can really, if I can position Teeny into a nice spot, then I can really end up wrapping the game up kind of early with Victini. So I'm going to go for Volt here and take out his Melmetal and bring in Taunt, again preventing his Sceptile from just coming in freely. I'm going to knock off this Rotom's Heavy Duty Boots as he's just going to go for the Defog, so revealing to be Boots Defog. And I'm just going to Sludge Bomb him here, keep him nice and low as he does just go for the Volt. So Rotom's pretty much dead now, which is nice for Victini. He may even use Rotom as a sack to Victini, which could be nice if I go for Flame Charge the turn he goes out to it. So all important things to consider. I'm going to U-turn out on this Mence and go out into my Clef here, as he's just going to go for the Iron Tail, and that does a lot of damage, revealing that he's definitely offensive, definitely physically offensive there. And now I'm just going to go for Moonblast as I cannot let this thing set up freely. Switching out into something else like Victini or something would be just really unnecessary and would allow him to be in a really good spot if he gets the Dragon Dance up unpunished. So now he's in range of Helmet. He's in range of Helmet, and that's really nice for me. So I can just protect up this turn, get a little bit of health back. I don't think he's going to be Roost on this set, and roosting in front of Moonblast Clef is never the play. He's going to be Dragon Dance, EQ probably, EQ or Hydro or Aqua Tail or something like that, and then Dragon Claw to hit my Torn and my Dragapult. So this turn I'm going to go out into my Rotom, wanting him to take that helmet damage, as he's going to go for the Iron Tail and miss. And I think the following turn he's just going to go for the Dragon Claw and take me out, and then drop to the Rocky Helmet damage. So that's one big threat out of the way. And now he's going to bring back in his Silvally. I'm going to go into my Taunt again, not wanting to let his Sceptile come in freely, as this turn I'm going to knock off his Choice Band, as he'd revealed that sort of damage earlier versus, I think he went for U-turn versus my Steelix, and I realized that he was banned. And he's going to go for multi-attack there, does a nice chunk as I just U-turn out into my Steelix, and he's going to go for the U-turn himself, bringing in his Finny. So Finny's inside. He's going to go for Surf, and that's going to take out my Steelix. I'm going to go back out into my Torn and just go for the Knock or the Sludge. No, I'll go for Sludge Bomb here, as he's just going to go for Nature's Madness. So he's not offensive. I didn't know if he was Scarfed based on going for that raw Surf, but showing lefties there. My Torn is a really nice check to it, because I'm going to be just whittling it down with Sludge Bomb, but he's going to switch it out, preserve some health on Finny, which is smart. He I guess sees that my 100% Victini is a big threat in this end game, so I'm going to U-turn out of here and go out into my Dragapult, as he is going to go for the Crunch, hitting my Dragapult nicely there. The reason I bring in Dragapult is I want to bring in Dragapult versus I want to get Victini in versus anything by Finny. If I get an inverse Finny, that's fine too. I'm fine to have Victini in. I just want to get Victini in, get a Flame Charge up and win, but he's going to switch out and go into his Finny the turn that I bring in Dragapult, and he's going to take a T-Bolt, which is going to do a nice chunk of damage. So again, like he's been playing incredibly over aggressive, like unnecessarily over aggressive in many situations, but a lot of times it's worked out for him. The way I've built this team, like I don't need to play aggressive. I can let him take out my Dragapult and get my Victini and win. And at this point in the match, I actually go for Flamethrower. Now Flamethrower covers him going hard Sceptile on the T-Bolt and outspeeding me the following turn and threatening me out, or just taking me out. If he doesn't, if he chooses to stay in and sack his Finny, then I get to bring in my Victini and click Flame Charge, proc the weakness policy, and wrap this game up. So he is going to make the aggressive play out into his Sceptile, which isn't a bad play. Like, it's not a bad play by any means, and honestly, was a pretty nice play, but the Flamethrower covered both him staying in and switching out there. So he's going to bring in his Silvally here, and my Dragapult is just going to die to the crunch. I'm going to bring in my Victini here, go for the Flame Charge, as his Silvally is going to go down, and he's going to bring in his Finny here. I'm going to go for the Psychic, and he's going to go for the Surf. He actually crits me here. It would have done like 60% or so, 65% or so. So he gets the crit, but it's all good. We got the Taunt in the back, and Sludge Bomb's going to take him out, and that is going to be a good game. So yeah, good game to go to. We're going to pause it and jump it into the next one. Alright, so we're back with the next one, and this round we're facing off against Lapis. She's got a strong team, like first Corviknight we're seeing in the tour, another Rotom Heat, which is obviously a bit of a nuisance for the team. Meg Diancie, really cool Mega, has received a ton of buffs this gen. Garchomp also received a ton of buffs, just not having to, purely like not having to be worried about Hidden Power Ice. Gren is always a menace, and Toad is a really solid mon, so really strong team overall. I've got mixed attacking Victini with predominantly specially offensive. I am heavy duty boots on this set with Flame Charge, Glaciate, Energy Ball, and Blue Flare. So this can work as a nice early game disruptor breaker, as well as a nice late game win con if I can position it correctly. I've got Healing Wish support on Clef, so I can potentially bring that back if it gets weakened early. I've got AV Torn with a ton of physical offense investment to weaken down the Rotom more efficiently. Because I'm not running Psychic on Victini, it relies on Taunt support to weaken down Rotom in order for it to die to Blue Flare. It's also nice for doing more damage to a more specially defensive Corv, because I don't have Heat Waves, so just that extra investment. It also does nicely versus the Greninja. Superpower Oko's that thing, so I've got Hidden Power. I've got Icy Wind on this set to help check Chomp as well, which is a pretty big threat. Then I've got Subtoxic Rotom. It's a nice way of luring like non-rest or non-refresh Seismitoad, as well as abusing Corv having to switch out versus it, as well as his Rotom Heat. And then I've got Dragapult here. Metronome for attacks on this set. It's a really solid win con actually. Lapis doesn't have a lot for it, unless her Gren is scarfed, like or Chomp is scarfed. There really isn't much that can revenge Dragapult. So if I can get that position correctly, it can really put in work. I got Healing Wish Clef, like I mentioned earlier, to revive my Wincons and to serve as a nice mixed defensive check to Chomp and Gren. And then lastly, Spidef, Iron Defense, Body Press, Steelix, which can work nicely against the boosting Chomp or even a boosting like a Bulk Up Corv. Body Press does a lot to Rotom too, as well as a decent amount to Seismitoad. So we're going to jump into the match and see how it all went. I'm going to lead with Rotom as Lapis leads with Toad. I'm going to sub up turn 1 on the expected knock or Toxic, but Toad decides to knock, so I'm going to Toxic here, and Toad won't break my sub with knock, but this turn I'm going to go hard Clef in an attempt to set up my rocks up, as Lapis goes out to Garchomp, who's going to be scared out into Corv, so that's nice for me, getting that early momentum up. And I'm going to go hard out into my Taunt here, as Lapis has shown a tendency to run U-turn a lot, like especially in matchups with Rotoms, so I felt the U-turn was coming. I didn't think Defog was the bring this game, because she's got access to Spike's Gren, which she's pretty fond of, as well as multiple rockers, so I felt like she was more than likely going to stack me, considering I don't have Spikes of my own. And yeah, I just didn't feel like Defog was coming to this one, so making Taunt is the offensive pivot, as opposed to going Rotom, which invites in Rocks Toad or spikes Gren or something like that, so, or rocks Garchomp or sub Garchomp. So Torn sort of keeps the momentum in my favor, as she does go out to Rotom, which is great. This is what I want. I want Rotom weakened, I want Rotom inside, and I want it lured by Torn. So I'm going to go for Knock, as Rotom's going to fire for Toxic, expecting me to go out to my own Rotom, I think, or Clef, potentially. I'm going to Superpower here and do a nice chunk, nice 34 to this Rotom, as she's going to Nasty Plot up. I'm going to U-turn out here and go into my unaware Clef, who doesn't care about these boosts and will punish something like a Volt Switch with just doing negligible damage. But she's going to go out to Corviknight here, and again I'm going to switch out, not wanting to stay in here and take an Iron Head and do nothing back. Going to go back into my Torn, keeping up this offensive momentum, as she's going to go for Iron Head this turn, and I think I just Knock here. Do I Knock? Or I think I Knock here. No, I U-turn out. Fair play. I U-turn out into my Steelix, and right here I am just going to go for the body press, expecting the Toad to come in. I thought it might do a little bit more than that, but this is definitely Fizz-Def Toad, so that's good to know. Body press also called Corviknight, as opposed to EQ doing nothing. So she's going to Knock here as I go into my Torn, removing my AV, which isn't the end of the world. Rotom's pretty weakened now, and I think I can handle Gren in other ways. I'm just going to weaken down this Toad with Knock. She reveals Rest, which is interesting. So she's Rest, Knock, more than likely Sleep Talk, I'd imagine, with potentially Scald in the last slot. I'm going to go into my Rotom here and just attempt to sub up and scout out the moveset, as she reveals Sleep Talk, so that's good to know. So last move is either Toxic or Scald, more than likely, as she's going to reveal the Rocket is Chomp. So I'm going to miss my first Hydro here, and unfortunately I'm going to miss the second Hydro, as she is just going to click Raw. So Chomp would have been nice and weak and nice and in range of Glaciate this turn, but unfortunately she's out of range there. So I'm defensive enough to take an Earthquake, even an Earthquake from this Chomp, but she reveals to be special, and that Earth Power does quite a lot, so that's good to know. That's good to know. It's definitely a bulky Archie Chomp with special attacks, so it doesn't care about burns too much, so that's fair. Rotom's going to go down now, which is really nice for Victini. If I can bring this back later with Clef's Healing Wish, that could be really nice for me, or I can just keep using it as a low health breaker. She's going to go for Gunk Shot here, expecting me to go Clef, which is nice. So Rotom's in, and I can just go for the Toxic here, I think. No, I'll go for Discharge on Gren, not wanting to risk him Lapis staying in and clicking Dark Pulse, I guess. As Draco's going to come down, fail to take out Rotom, and I'm going to finally get an attack off versus this Chomp. It's going to get Toxic, and I'm going to switch out and preserve my Rotom. Going to go into my Clef here, as Lapis makes the good play of Raw. Going to send me out into my Torn. I think this turn I U-turn out, as she goes Toad. Do I U-turn out? No, I go for Icy Wind. I go for Icy Wind, yeah. I think I go Clef on this Seismitoad now, knowing that I can safely get off a Healing Wish. I want to keep my Rotom. Nice and healthy, and that's actually the reason why I choose the Healing Wish up here instead of healing up my Victini. My Victini with boots can still function as a decent breaker if I get in on the right things like Seismitoad, but I'm concerned about late game Scarf Gren, which I kind of think Gren is based on the way Lapis is playing it. So I'm going to Healing Wish up my Rotom and get it back up to a nice amount of health, which is going to be nice for me later on in this one. So I'm going to go to Victini here, as Lapis makes the aggressive play of going for U-turn instead of hard switching out into Toad. So I made the hard to Victini, expecting the hard switch to Toad, not wanting to risk the Defog Para, but the Discharge Para, but she makes the aggressive play, and it works out for her now, because she's going to be able to bring in Gren, which is going to threaten out my Victini, force me to go out into my Torn and sack it off to an attack, as she reveals Dark Pulse. So Torn actually lives that even without the Assault Vest, because we are really fat. And I'm going to bring in my Rotom Wash here. I think this turn I double out. Do I double? Is this the turn I double? Yeah, I double into my Dragon Bolt here, expecting Lapis to go Toad, and this is going to give me a Draco here. I want to see how willing she is to throw away Seismitoad, whether she understands that Seismitoad is like essential in this endgame or not. I don't know yet. As she shows she does, and she's going to go into Corv, take the Draco pretty nicely. And here I didn't think she'd want to give up offensive momentum. I felt like she wouldn't want me to go into my Victini and not punish that by roosting. I've already shown that I'm willing to switch in Victini versus Corviknight, Knight, so this turn I'm just going to go for T-Bolt, expecting the U-turn, and that is going to keep this Corv nice and low, and that is what she decides to do. So U-turn out into Diancie. Diancie's now in range of Surf, but I got to get that special attack drop away, so I'm going to sack off Victini, and she's going to take me out here with 2 Moonblasts, and then I'm going to bring back in my bring back in my Steelix here and just go for the, I think I go for the body press. No, I go for the EQ, expecting the Garchomp sack. That's right. So Garchomp is down, and Toad is back in. I'm going to go out to Dragapult here, as she makes the really good play of going for Knock. This was a really good play. Like this, like it looks simple enough, like expecting my Dragapult to come in, but like she could have easily rested or just scalded my Steelix. Like I could have just stayed in an EQ'd or like Iron defensed up. But Knock was a really solid player. Gotta give props for that play for sure. As now I'm just gonna go for the Shadow Ball, not expecting her to sack Seismitoad. The reason I say like that Seismitoad play was good is because Rotom wins this end game. Like Rotom with Discharge and Hydro wins this game, with Dragapult in the back to pretty much wrap the game up. And the fact that, you know, she was willing to let the Seismitoad take more damage versus the Steelix was solid. But now big Dragapult's inside, and I'm just going to go for the Shadow Ball, take out the Corviknight, and she's going to send Diancie, and she doesn't go Gren. I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe she's not Scarfed. That was good to know. Like I had a contingency plan for if Gren was Scarfed, I was going to have to go into my... I was going to have to pivot around, either pivot around Rotom and Steelix on the Water or Dark move respectively, or now that Dragapult is so weak, I was probably going to have to sack it and use Rotom and Steelix to beat the remaining Mons with Iron Defense, Body Press, or just PB stalling the Seismitoad. But it turns out that Gren isn't Scarfed, and Dragapult is just going to wrap this game up with Shadow Ball into T-Bolt. So that was really nice, really solid game, real back and forth. And we're going to take the win in this one. So we're going to pause it and jump into the final game of this recording. Alright, we're here with the last one, and this time we're facing off against Theo. This is, I think, I don't know if it was like top 16 or top 8 or whatever it was, but it was pretty up there in the losers bracket. And we're facing Theo. He's got a sand sort of stall team with Mega Bro, Clef, Zapdos, and then sand offense with Excadrill. He's also got a Lapras. I think he had a couple other Mons, but these were the main ones, and yeah, definitely a fat team. I got a pretty cool team though here. So I got Power Punch Encore Victini with U-Turn and V-Create. This is to punish some sort of boosting sets from these two, as well as getting nice chip on Gigalith, which opens up a Torn endgame really, really nicely. Speaking of Torn, I'm Nasty Plot with Rakanberry and Icy Wind, so I get Zapdos chipped enough, and I can smash it with +2 Icy Wind. I can actually 2-KO it with +2 Icy Wind if I Nasty Plot on the switch to Zapdos. The only way he beats my Torn is if he gets a Discharge Para, so the odds are highly in my favour to come out of that exchange on top. And this Torn is a massive threat to his team, so I got Focus Blast for the Gigalith, the Lapras, and the Excadrill, Nasty Plot, Icy Wind, and Hurricane. So this set can honestly just like smack this guy, but very, very nice set here. Then I've got an Encore mixed defensive Clef. He did have a Hydreigon as well, which is definitely centralizing in prep now. The thing has Nasty Plot and Flash Cannon, so big threat for sure. But I have Encore again to cuck like CM Bro, CM Clef, running a bit of speed for that. And I have, I think, what was this? Like a I'm a Spidef Rotom with Pain Split and Nasty Plot in this set, so I can pivot around his team pretty nicely. Nasty Plot up to break through stuff like Zapdos and Lapras. And now here I have, what is my Steelix? My Steelix for this one is just actually full Fizz Def, funnily enough. This was a dedicated check to sand Excadrill as well as Gigalith, because this mon is a monster. My team is extreme, like my team has awful matchup versus Mold Breaker Drill, so I had to ensure that my Steelix had enough defense to comfortably check at +2 Mold Breaker Drill, who'd used Rapid Spin and gained the +1 speed boost there. So then I have, like I mentioned, I've got my Vulcan, Nasty Plot, Wink on Torn, and then I have a defensive Wisp Hex, Dragapult, which is a secondary check to his Excadrill. So I'm going to jump into the game. This is looking to be a good one. He's going to lead Zap as I lead Rotom. I'm going to scout Toxic turn 1 and go into my Clef, I believe, as he's just going to go into his... No, I go into my Steelix. That's right. I go into my Steelix because he's never Heat Waving there. He's always Toxicking, if anything, or he's going into something like Excadrill, Clef of his own on potential Toxic from Rotom or Trick, or he's going into his Gigalith here. So that's nice for me. I am just going to Mega Up and throw up my rocks as he's going to go out to his Slowbro. I'm going to go out into my, I think you go out into my Clef here, as he is just going to fire off a Toxic. He's going to miss. Would like to get Toxic actually, because that means I don't have to worry about Discharge Paras from Zapdos, but that's all good. I'm going to go for Moonblast here. Actually, Flamethrower, as he could have gone into Excadrill, but he instead goes into his Zapdos. He's going to Defog, and I'm just going to fire for Moonblast, gauging some damage. He does reveal to have Defog, so this is definitely a fatter team. And I'm going to go into my Steelix here and just throw off a Toxic, as he... do I throw up my rocks or do I throw up a Toxic? Yeah, I threw my rocks up, wanting to see if he did in fact have Heat Wave. So this reveals that he's either Heat Wave Toxic or Heat Wave Discharge. Either way, my Rotom should be able to check it pretty reasonably nicely, especially if he's not Toxic of his own. So I'm going to U-turn out and go into my Clef here, as he just goes for the Discharge. So he's not Toxic, meaning my Rotom is a really nice actual way of beating this Zapdos. I'm going to go out to my Rotom here as he brings in his Lapras. This turn he is going to go for the Toxic with his Lapras, as I get up to +2 with my Rotom, and now I'm just going to Volt Switch out as he goes into his Unaware Clef. And this puts my Rotom on a timer, so that's definitely not nice for me. That means that it's going to be harder to wear down this Zapdos, but he isn't pressure, he is static on his Zapdos, so that's something important to note. So my Hydros won't be being cut down by 2 every time, but he does have this Unaware Clef, which is going to be an issue for my Rotom. So here I'm going to throw off a Toxic, as I expect him to go Zap, and he has revealed to be Unaware, so if he stays in he gets Toxic. If he goes Slowbro he gets Toxic, as he's going to go into Gigalith as I go into my Dragapult. And right here I think I just U-turn back out into my Steelix, and this is going to give me rocks as he gets up his own. That also gives me info on the Gigalith, whether he's lefties or not, as he is in fact lefties, so he's not the Smooth Rock, which is good to know. But the fact that he's lefties means that it's going to take a little bit longer for my Victini to chip him down. But he's not Chopper, which is good to know for my Torn. He's going to go into Zap here, and I'm just going to go back out into my Clef this turn as he brings in his Slowbro. Now I'll go into my Dragapult. I don't know. I think I may. Oh yeah, that's right. I went Dragapult over Clef because going Exca, expecting my Clef was a fine play there, and he would have been able to spin away rocks if he had it. Whereas Dragapult scared out the Exca with Wisp and lures in the Clef to get Wisped, which is what I want. I want to wear down that Clef to really open up my Rotom in the endgame, as well as my Torn, because I'm nice to Torn. I want that Clef at least status in some manner. But he's going to go into his Slowbro here. He stays in, which is interesting, and goes for the Slack Off. Interesting play, like very interesting play. I don't know why he didn't scout for Shadow Ball or for Wisp or Toxic, or not Toxic. Dragapult can't run Toxic, but he goes for Slack Off. I guess wanting to scout maybe Shadow Ball damage, or just not expecting me to stay in there. As Clef's going to come in, I'm just going to go hard out into my Torn, scouting the Exca, but he actually stays in and goes for Calm Mind versus my Clef, so that's good to know. I'm just going to go back out to my Clef as he goes for Scald. I'm going to get back up to full as he is going to Calm Mind up again, and I'm going to reveal Encore here, which is going to lock this Slowbro in, as he's going to be forced to switch out here and go out into either Gigalith, Excadrill, or Lapras. But he actually goes out into his Clefable, which is nice. So Victini's inside, and Victini is going to be one of my main ways of wearing down his team. Victini, whilst this Clef is unaware, it is not going to appreciate V-Creates. It's just going to get smashed by V-Creates. So Victini is one of my big win cons here, as well as Torn. He's going to go for Protect, scouting if I'm Choice Locked, or I guess scouting if I'm Trick. And I'm just going to go for the Power Punch as he brings in Gigalith. And yeah, the way I got to play this is Power Punching on the switch to Gigalith and then U-turning out. If I can prevent him from passing wishes to this Gigalith, then that's something I have to do. have to keep this thing nice and low. So I'm gonna go into Steelix as his Rock Blast is actually gonna do 2, 0%, 1%, 1%. So he's gonna get 5 hits, and but the damage on that was pretty funny to watch. As I'm gonna go back out to Teeny on his Slowbro pivot, and I'm just gonna U-turn out here, as I think he fires off a Scald, or he either Scalds or he slacks off. Yeah, he Scalds here, and Clef's gonna come in. I think I just Moonblast here as he goes out to his Lapras. Now I Flamethrower again, really trying to like catch his Clef his Excadrill coming in, but he's going to go to Lapras instead. He's going to go for Whirlpool as I just go for the Moonblast. He misses his Whirlpool there, so that is going to prolong his attempt to trap my Clef. And this is the kind of Lapras set I mentioned in the very first game that I played in this tour, and the reason why I said is such a centralizing mod in prep. Granted, like I brought Shed Shell Clef to my first, or I brought Teleport Clef to my first game, and that would have been really fantastic in this game, but having to account for Nasty Plot Hydreigon, which was such a good bring versus me in the back, it really did limit, and also, you know, running Encore on a set, not being set up fodder for Mega Bro, his own Carmine Clef, meant that I left myself sort of more open to this Lapras, but it should be okay. I do have Victini, I do have Torn who can break through this Lapras, so I'm going to Encore him into Whirlpool and just start Moonblasting him down. He's going to eventually break free of Encore, but by that point there's a good chance that I might have him low enough to where I can actually knock him out. I can also switch out the turn the Whirlpool ends, so that's pretty good for me. So I'm going to continue, I'm going to speed this up a bit. I'm going to continue Moonblasting him down as his Encore ends, and he is just going to go for Rest. I'm going to Encore him into Rest here, as he's going to go out into his Slowbro, as I switch out into my Victini. I'm going to U-turn out into my Dragapult here, as he does just slack off up. And now I think I U-turn out again, as he is not he's not afraid of staying in versus my Dragapult, which is interesting. He's going to miss another Toxic. Would have actually liked that one to land again, because it means I don't have to risk discharge paras with his Zapdos, but he's going to bring in his Clef here. His Clef's getting whittled, and this is a Victini switch in. Now the fact that he switched out Clef there, he didn't let Clef get back up to full, so Clef is now in range of Torn's Hurricane after Rocks, which is good to know. His Gigalith is going to get up to a nice amount of health. I think I Power Up Punch here, expecting him to go Gigalith, or I sort of lost nothing by it. Like if he stayed in protected, getting back up to full, I could V-create the following turn, which would have done a ton of damage, like at least like 28-30% to this Gigalith, as well as Rocks, and then U-turn the following turn. But he does switch out to Gigalith for that to receive that wish, and here I can just U-turn out, getting a bit of 24%, bit of chunk of damage on this, which is nice. Keeping this thing relatively whittled, as I'm going to bring in my Dragapult here on the Rock Blast, and it does very little because we are defensive. He gets 3 hits there, as I think this turn I do just go for the Wisp on this Gigalith, so this thing is now kind of neutered. It isn't going to be able to do a ton of damage, and I can potentially stay in with it versus Torn and my Victini. So he's going to go Excadrill here, as I just go for the U-turn. I'm going to U-turn out into my Rotom, as he's shown to be Sandrill on this. He's shown to not be Mold Breaker, so that's nice for me. I'm going to double out into my Victini here as he goes into his Slowbro. Going to go into my Clef as he goes for Scald. It's a longer game, this one, so I'm going to be spitting through the turns pretty quickly. And yeah, he's just staying in with Slowbro versus Clef, going for Scalds, trying to get the burn, and he really doesn't have to switch out. The thing is, his Lapras is asleep, so it can't effectively trap my Clef at this point in time. He's going to switch out to Drill here on the turn that I Encore, which is nice. I'm going to stay in here, expecting him not to Iron Head and get him with the Flamethrower as he goes for the Poison Jab, doing a nice amount to Clef, but Clef can always heal up versus his burnt Gigalith, his own Clef, or his Slowbro, so I'm not too fussed about that. I like that damage on Excadrill a lot, so going to go to my Rotom here, as he is just going to go for the Iron Head, and it's going to bounce off. But Rotom is at 51 now, and I am poisoned, so I am going to be racking up the damage, but I'm going to go for Pain Split here. Get some nice damage off versus this Slowbro with a Volt the following turn, as he is just going to slack off. And this is going to get my clef back up. This is going to be a good opportunity to heal my clef back up, as he is just going to go into his clef. So his clef is back in, and I'm just going to go into my Victini here. Now he aromatherapies instead of wishing up, which is going to keep his clef low. So this is important. Clef is kept low, and this turn I am just going to go for the V-create, wanting to remove his clef, as he is just going to switch out to slow bro here as I go for the U-turn. I'm going to go into my Taunt here. So now I figured this is the prime opportunity to set up with my Taunt. This is what I've been waiting for, and I'm just going to nasty plot here as he goes out into his Zapdos. His Zapdos is at 74%, so 2 Icy Winds will take him out. If he's like more Fizz Def, like this plus 2 Icy Wind might actually knock him out, but he is definitely at least mixed defensive, probably Spidef, based on how well he took that. But this is a comfortable 2 KO, and I am Wakan Berry, so I don't have to fear dying here to the discharge. But unfortunately for me, he is going to get the para, and that is going to really hinder Taunt's ability in this game. So that was tough. At this point in the game, plus 2 Taunt absolutely smacked this guy. So that was very, very tough. It would have, Zapdos would have gone down, and then he would have either been forced to go into Gigalith to get the sand up for Exca to attempt to revenge Taunt, which means that either Gigalith would have died, or he would have had to sack something to Focus Blast, say go Clef and then die to Hurricane the following turn. But either way, he did get the para. So gonna go into Victini here and Power Up Punch here, as we should get static parried again. So yeah, and then he crits me with Discharge. So it's like, yeah. And now he's gonna go into his Excadrill. I'm just gonna go out into my Dragger here, as he's gonna go for Poison Jab. Doesn't take me out, but he gets the poison. So yeah, Dragger's gonna go down. So yeah, this game's turned from a real back and forth into a bit of a shit fest. So it's kind of over at this point, because my win cons in Victini and Taunt have both been statused, have both been paralyzed. So, and I've just lost Dragger there to the poison. So it's not looking too good. But we're gonna play on. You never know. So I'm gonna Volt out into Clef as he just World Pulls, and now he's going to. I'm just gonna speed this right up, because he traps Clef effectively with his Lapras, and Clef's gonna go down. All right, so Slowbro's in. I'm gonna go into my Taunt. I'm gonna Hurricane here as he goes into his Gigalith. Hurricane does a nice chunk, and he's gonna switch out, not wanting to take the Focus Blast. He's gonna go into Slowbro. I think here I just Hurricane again into Slowbro, as Scald does take me out with the Sand. So Taunt goes down, Steelix comes in. I'm just going to click EQ and take out this Lapras. And he's going to go back out into his Excadrill. Going to go into my Rotom here as he goes for the EQ. Doesn't take me out. Now here I am just going to go for the Volt Switch, expecting him to preserve his Excadrill as a nice way of always checking my Steelix, but he actually goes to the Poison Jab, and that is going to 2-hit KO Rotom with the poison damage, and Rotom's going to go down, and I just forfeit there. So that is going to be a really rough way to go out of this one. Would have loved a clean game here. Really felt I had the tools to win this one, but that is the way Mons goes sometimes. So I hope you guys did enjoy this long recording. I think it's going to be over an hour, so it's definitely a long one, but it was overdue for me to upload some Mons content on the channel. So let me know in the comments what you thought of this video. Drop a like if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.